Tonight on the Black Channel, from 1,000 to hundreds of thousands, let me explain to you why what we do matters. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, unstoppable, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from all around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are all the new black media, and this is just the Black Channel. And I am only your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the voice of all of you. The Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college university of higher education and learning in the entire cosmos. Of course, you are welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, while I have been unwell and a lot of things have been going on here, I won't dwell on that very long there, but among other things here, by the way, another milestone has been passed here. The Black Channel has passed 150,000 subscribers. Now, in the greater scheme of things, this is absolutely irrelevant. Are you kidding me? YouTube takes the average white supremacist YouTube channel. They take the average cream puff channel. They take the average thought twerker channel and put them over 150,000 subscribers within a year, if they have to wait that long. But we all understand that we are subversives. We all understand that we are rebels. We all understand that we are the voice of the revolution. So, of course, their goal is to suppress us at every turn. Because in reality, this isn't supposed to have an audience. Do you all understand? What we do here isn't supposed to have any audience at all. Folks are supposed to be watching their cat videos. They're supposed to be watching their baby videos. They're supposed to be watching their goof off videos. They're supposed to be watching their milk crate challenges. They're not supposed to be tuned in to somebody who isn't mobbed up with a major corporation or isn't some reject from cable television news and comes to YouTube and then is able to speak in an authoritative way and gain an audience of any size or measure. That's not supposed to happen. They're supposed to have the game rigged and set up to make sure that that does not occur. And if you start gaining traction, their job is to stamp you out. And over the course of the last 15 years, I want you all to understand that's like 10,000 subscribers a year. We have been fighting and scrapping and scraping and clawing the entire time, with a corporate apparatus, a media apparatus, and all the others sitting up here trying to convince the world that, by the way, don't worry about them. They don't even exist. Remember, that's been the story. That's been the narrative that they've been giving for the better part now of the last decade. Well, the last 12 years, that we didn't exist. Why not? Okay, well, if they do exist, they're inconsequential. And then they started losing elections. And then people took the streets. And then people got bailed out of jail. And then the public spoke directly around the media. Please, let me remind you all again. Ferguson, Missouri was on fire for 3 days. 3 straight days. You can go back and check the broadcast of the new black media. Ferguson, Missouri was on fire for 3 straight days before CNN, CBS, or any of the corporate national media went down there. Do you remember that? We were talking about it online. We were talking about it here. We were talking about it on Twitter. We were talking about it everywhere else. You want to talk about suppression of media and suppression of information. You want to talk about a media blackout that didn't come from the government. So if you ask yourself, is the white corporate media and the white supremacist government both hand in hand working in conjunction with each other? Ferguson, Missouri proved that once again for the modern era. If you'll remember, Ferguson was on fire for 3 days before they ever sent a camera down there or said anything about it. We were all talking about it. They didn't say a word. Hell, it finally took the FAA to make a no-fly rule over that area. Remember? I mean, they went full-fledged martial law. The FAA, you can't fly over Missouri. No helicopters over that area. No helicopters. And the media treated that like, oh, well, ho hum, no issue, no problem there. Back to cake recipes. But by that time, it was too late because, you see, we understood something that they've never understood. We've, as black people, as the original people of America and the world, but particularly here in North America, as the foundation of this country, we have never had the support, the popular support, or the mass support of the establishment. We've always had to work underground. We've always had to work from the soil. We've never been given a big megaphone. So if our message ever gets out there, we've always had to signal boost it and promote it and amplify it ourselves. Nobody ever gave it to us. And it's never going to be given to us because our message has always been consistent about destroying and overturning the status quo. Therefore, you can't afford to signal boost that or amplify that. But we're used to being able to go door to door. We're used to putting in the shoe leather. We're used to going doorstep to doorstep, block to block, and getting the message out. We are used to having to get the word out from the grassroots. These other folks ain't used to that. They don't have street credibility. This is why when they come drop in some talking head somewhere, those folks get run off the block because they don't have the street credibility. They don't have the time of the years put in going block to block, door to door. And we've got that. So we've never worried about being the leading story on CNN. We've only worried about being the leading voice among our people. And there's where the credibility is. So when it was finally time for the white networks to step in, and when they finally decided they would come talking, you get Don Lemon who shows up and he gets clowned immediately. You get ABC and them showing up and they get rocks thrown at them. Everyone saw you for what you are, and at this point right now, you can't show up anywhere anymore. You've been delegitimized because everyone sees you for what you are. That's the difference, but that's also the problem for them. They don't speak for the people. So you see, our 150,000, quote, 150,000 subscriber count on YouTube is more potent than a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 million subscriber count on another channel. Because the other folks are entertainment, and here folks know we put our necks on the line. We put our lives on the line here. We put our lives on the line here. You never have and you never will hear a story of the old bootleg black media getting pulled out at gunpoint, getting pulled over, police tossed in the car, bringing out drug dogs. You won't ever hear anything like that from them. Never. And that's the whole point. We are the legitimate voice of the people, and that's why the people resonate with this. And I'm going to give you all some more on that in just a moment. But before I go any further, I would like to give out a round of applause here. We are unsung heroes. Nobody's going to be singing our praises. Nobody's going to be putting our name up in lights. I have never fought for fame or notoriety or celebrity, and I never will. But doing the work of the people a lot of the time it's a thankless job. And that is why I have so much respect for individuals who don't just give lip service, they give real service. So shout out to Cornell Sly. Thank you very much for your support. Nancy King, thank you. Ivy the Great. My man Black Voltron Reloaded. As always, Jay Freeman Blackman and everybody else here. Everyone else here who's done that. Because I want you to understand, we are up against folks who are being given. People, listen to me. Jeff Bezos gave, just handed $100 million to Van Jones. Just handed it to him. Here you go, nigga. Think about that for a few moments. Van Jones, who has proven nothing, accomplished nothing, done nothing, and $100 million. Can someone explain to me, what is the justification of giving, of all people, Van Jones $100 million? What has he done? What has he accomplished? What has he proven? What has he achieved that justifies such a gargantuan level of investment? People, when Facebook, Twitter, and these internet startups were trying to get off the ground, they were given like $25-50 million. You hand Van Jones $100 million? Why, that's a major Hollywood studio movie budget. What has he done that justifies that? I can't imagine what it would be other than you're putting in that kind of investment, because for them, it doesn't cost them anything, but what they're hoping it will gain is hopefully a semi-suitable, useful, usable shill bootlick lackey who they're hoping that he can come up with some plan that will drown us out. That's what that money is for. Just like when record companies put money behind some no-name talent out there, hoping that the real talent doesn't break through. And it's really money being set up to drown you out. I want you all to understand that's not minor. Man, that's major. That is for real money, man. That's for real money. They're not playing any games right now. They are all the way real about erasing us. They're all the way real about drowning us out. And they are putting real money behind it. You know, Tariq said something years ago that we've all echoed here because it's true. They were saying that, oh, you know, y'all are running a scam or running a grift and you're just trying to make money. To which he said, we don't make no money at this. The real money is in cooning. The real money is in buck dancing. The real money is in ass kissing. What are you kidding me? Come on, let's just lay it on the line. Jason Black has the best voice in broadcast media. You don't think I can make a Tucker Carlson level deal if I ever wanted to step out there? And yet, I haven't done that. So if it was just about clocking some dollars, what are you kidding me? Are you serious? Are you for real? You can't be talking like that. If it was just about clocking dollars, oh, there's a whole lot better way to do that. There's a whole lot easier way to do that. Hell, they would give me $500 million just to shut me up. Do you all understand that? After all the trouble and havoc I've given them, they would do me like they did Al Sharpton. They would give me $100 million just to shut me up. They would give me $100 million and all the weed and white women you can pack into an 18-wheeler just to shut me up, just to get me quiet. It would be worth it for them to spend $300 or $400 million just to get me to agree to get off YouTube and stop saying what I'm saying. It would be worth it just to get that. Nothing else, not even to get me to talk in their favor. Just, you know what, we'll give you $300 million if you retire. You just stop talking. And that would be a win for them. So when you talk about going where the money is, you want to talk about that? That's where the money is, Jack. That's where the money is at. That's where the profit is at. That's why there's a never-ending line of wannabe bootlicks and suck-ups over there. That's where the money is. Over here, it ain't nothing but hard work and struggle day in and day. People, I'm here on holidays. Folks, listen to me. I'm here on holidays. On sometimes when a bunch of y'all aren't even here. You sitting there with your family around the Christmas tree and cutting the turkey, and you might go check in on your earphone there for just a moment to see what I said. Man, I'm here on holidays, dude. I'm here on holidays. I do special events. If something happens in the news or something here, I try to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. Who's compensating for that? Show me where the big payoff is for that. Show me what it is. And still fight to be on top of these things. Show me what it is. Show me where it is. No, you know where the real and the authentic is. And that's what scares them. That's what's always scared them. And you all remember I've always said I have never worried about numbers so long as our numbers are sufficient enough to exert our will. That's all I've ever concerned about. I have never worried about being the largest army. I have only concerned myself with being the elite forces. That is it. If you have 100,000 weak soldiers, I will beat them with 100 elite ones every day of the year. That's all I need. You come on out here with your 100,000 lambs to the slaughter, because we're ready. So I've never worried about those numbers. Never. And I don't now. So I want to thank everyone who has done that. I want to thank everyone who has taken out their time. I want to thank everyone who has contributed. I want to thank everyone who's done that. Shout out to Veronica in the super chat. Cut the check as always. Thank you very much for your support, sister. We appreciate that. G Mars and everyone else. And I want to give you a brief reminder here. A brief reminder of why we do what we do. And I want you to just understand what the real fight is and what the real battle is. When I talk about that we are up against huge money, I want you all to understand something here. Tucker Carlson got kicked off of Fox News. He got kicked off of Fox News, but it really didn't change anything because they made sure that he was good regardless. He was already good coming in the door. You see, when you hand somebody 30, 40, 50, $100 million in the gate, you've made sure that their entrance and their exit has already been taken care of. Already been taken care of. So they're not going to hurt for anything. So Tucker Carlson, who already comes, by the way, from the Swanson food family. By the way, when you take a look at cable news, isn't that so incestuous of white supremacist money? We could go down the list all day. But Anderson Cooper is a descendant of the Vanderbilt family. Tucker Carlson is one of the heirs of the Swanson Food Company. So you want to know why it is that they don't have, they'll never get grassroots support, by the way. They come from the wealthiest families in American history and then want to tell you what's happening here. So just thought I would throw that out there. But this is from Tucker Carlson's YouTube channel. This is from Tucker Carlson's YouTube channel. And he's already got 400,000 subscribers on YouTube. 400,000. Not doing anything major, but of course he's become a favorite place for white supremacists and white supremacist adjacents to go. And now they want to talk about January 6th, the storming of the Capitol. And of course, they are hard at work to rewrite history. And I want you to see what YouTube is allowing on their platform has over 1 million views now. If you want to know what it is about being right, I mean, with 400,000 subscribers, Tucker is not just good, he is all the way good. Even if he didn't come from a rich family already, even if he had never been on Fox News, he is already all the way good right now. And I want you to hear some of the things. Now, he had a congressman from my state, Louisiana, which of course is continuing his proud tradition of cranking out unreformed Confederates and other illiterate buffoons. But he's talking to this guy here who's trying to make up excuses for why they haven't done anything about January 6th, or they haven't proven that Trump's people were not storming the Capitol. And I want you to hear what he has to say, because this reminds you of why we are here.
Actors within the federal government to see evidence that we have compiled from investigative effort and over the course of the last couple of years. Some offices like my own sort of operating in silos of investigative endeavor have now been able to come together now that we have a Republican majority and we have access to the staffs of the appropriate investigative committees. And so I sit on the oversight committee, and we Republicans run that committee now, and therefore we control the staff. So when you can magnify the efforts that individual members of Congress have pushed.
Now, he was asked about, by the way, you always will be here to prove that it wasn't an insurrection, and you always will be here to prove that, nothing illegal happened while you have the whole damn thing on video. Yours will be there to prove that. And this guy is rambling and babbling and claiming that, there's information out there, and now that we're in charge, we've been investigating all this time, and keep the faith, brother. We're going to get the facts out there because we're still investigating it. Because the point they were trying to make was that, there were FBI agents mixed in with the insurrectionists. That was the point they were trying to make. Well, there were FBI agents mixed in. These folks were not out there, rioting on their own. They were FBI agents, agent provocateurs, who were compelling these folks to do those things. That's what they're saying. That's what they were saying. But that's what he's saying now. And on YouTube, they got that going on. And by the way, where's the filter? Where is the pushback against that? Where's the algorithm to show, hey, by the way, why don't we go ahead and talk about what the fact these guys are not saying here, because this guy is claiming evidence is coming and there's not a bit of it involved at all. Where is that? And you know what? Why is it that I'm the only one saying that? By the way, why is it that I'm the only one pointing that out? Why is it I'm the only one doing that? Why isn't there a full-fledged apparatus around doing the exact same thing? Where's Jamel Hill and the rest of them? Where are they? I submit to you that they are where they've always been. They're not doing anything because they can't do anything. They're not doing anything because they're looking for something different. So I want you all to do here, I'm going to click forward a little bit here. And I want to play for you what he says a little bit down the line here, because I found that to be very interesting.
To the Capitol building aren't that many doors. You work there, But they allowed people in on purpose to entrap them. That's what that proves, I think. Does it not?
Well, it's certainly condemning. It's another piece of the strategy that the government employed to sort of complete the entrapment of Americans that they had infiltrated and then prodded and provoked with online with those original seeds planted of actions like, what type of gear to wear and just in language that incited behavior that could go the wrong way. Pushing actions of legal and legitimate peaceful protests to an edge where those Americans would likely not have gone had they not been encouraged by the FBI plant amongst their number that they didn't know was there. So
Now, this is a sitting United States congressman who is on the Oversight Committee, who is on Tucker Carlson's internet program, saying on camera, on the record, that as far as they're concerned, they have found they believe that there were hundreds of FBI agents that were mixed in with the January 6th movement, who had been agitating online, who had been coaxing people and coercing them to radicalize them. That's what this guy is literally sitting here telling you. So if you want to know what he's talking about, you just heard him sit there and say, oh, well, it was because of these FBI agents. They were online and they were mixed in with their groups, and they were the ones who were agitating, and they were pushing people to do things they otherwise wouldn't have done. So, folks, I mean, the interview is 38 minutes long. But this is literally on Tucker Carlson's YouTube program. It's from a day ago. It's from a day ago. So they're literally sitting here telling you that, it was the FBI. They're the ones who did that. The FBI did that. They're the ones. The agent provocateurs. Now, isn't this interesting? As black people, we've been talking about the evils of agent provocateurs now for decades. We've been talking about that and discussing that now for decades. We have shown evidence of them for decades. We've shown it for decades. And yet, we've always been treated as if it's conspiracy theories. That's what we were told. They were conspiracy theories. Oh, that doesn't exist. Oh, that doesn't happen. You all are just making things up. You have a criminal culture. Just radicals, revolutionaries. If you pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, just angry people. You're just violent. Too much testosterone. So on and so forth. And yet, just like Sarah Palin and her daughter getting pregnant, all of a sudden that's not black culture. That's just, oh, well, those things happen. All of a sudden. Hunter Biden was strung out on drugs. Well, that's not black culture. That's, well, happens in the best of families, don't you understand? And yeah, all of a sudden it's that. So even these guys on the hardcore white supremacist right wing are sitting up here now saying the exact same thing that we said for the longest time. Here's the problem. You're not going to have any credibility saying it because you've already been saying for decades that that's not the way it works. You can't claim the FBI when it suits you and then disown them when it doesn't. You can't legitimize them one week and then delegitimize them the next, because as long as the institution is there, it's legitimized. So if you're not against it all the time, you're legitimizing it all the time. Well, I'm white and I say so. How's that working out for you this week? They've handed out sentences of dozens of years. How's that working out? In their little fantasy land, it works out between their ears, but in the real world, it doesn't go so well.
By the time it was actually J6 and you had masses of Americans assembled outside the Capitol, almost like 99.9%, 100% peaceful. On the inside.
Now, did you hear that? 99%, 100% peaceful. Let me tell you something. I've always said this now for decades. One day, our grandchildren or great-grandchildren are going to look back at our history and they're just going to shake their heads and say, how in the world did you all let a bunch of illiterate, knuckle-dragging Neanderthal baboons sit up here and run this damn show for this long? You can see that they are obviously the dumbest and densest. How in the hell did y'all let them run the program this damn long? They can't even spell program. How did y'all let them get away with this?
You had FBI assets dressed as Trump supporters that knew their way around the Capitol.
Before the doors even open.
Or else how are you going to get around the Capitol? You've been there many times. You need a guide. to get from whatever door you go in.
It's a labyrinth.
It's a maze inside there. So that's right. So there's no way, just Americans, most of which have never been to the Capitol, there's no way they can come in some random door that gets opened and then get their way directly to the statuary or the House chamber or the.
So you just heard him outright. I want you all to understand, he keeps saying this over and over again. He's not biting his tongue, although he's stumbling over it. He keeps repeating that it's FBI agents who were leading the charge into the Capitol. It was FBI agents who were leading the rioters where to go, because otherwise the place is too confusing to get around. So they needed FBI agents to pretending to be rioters who were leading them through the building. He's saying this over and over and over and over again. And he's got Tucker Carlson's multi-million-dollar megaphone with which to say this.
Many times you need a guide to get from what FBI assets dressed as Trump supporters, 100% peaceful. On the inside, you had FBI assets dressed as Trump supporters that knew their way around the Capitol.
Before the doors even open.
Before the doors open. Or else how are you going to get around the Capitol? You've been there many times. You need a guide to get from whatever door you go in.
It's a labyrinth.
It's a maze inside there. So that's right. So there's no way, just Americans, most of which have never been to the Capitol, there's no way they can come in some random door that gets opened and then get their way directly to the statuary or the House chamber or the Senate chamber. It's just not possible. So the FBI assets that were dressed as Trump supporters that were inside the Capitol were there, I believe, and evidence indicates that they were there to specifically wave in the Trump supporters that had gathered outside the Capitol, and the doors opened and they were allowed in. And on the inside were there's some more Trump supporters, but really those were FBI assets, law enforcement assets that knew their way around the Capitol. And they.
Folks, this is not Jason Black talking. This is Tucker Carlson on YouTube. This is not Alex Jones. This is Tucker Carlson on YouTube with a sitting United States congressperson. The video hasn't been flagged for disinformation, this, that, and the other. There isn't anything on there. It doesn't even have one of those tags on there clarifying or giving a source or something. It doesn't even have one of those things. There's no thing on there saying, do you really want to watch this? There's none of that. There is none of that at all. And what I'm saying is, that's one thing for the YouTube side of it. Here's the other thing, though. The other thing is, by the way, when we've been saying all these things now for decades, this guy on the screen here, he would have been exactly the person trying to argue against that. Congressman Clay Higgins, that's his name. Congressman Higgins would have been the number one person telling you and me that we were just radicals. As a matter of fact, he was saying the same thing because Tucker Carlson brought up the George Floyd protests. Of course, those are just radicals and rioters and so on and so forth. You all are the good folks. With these mystical FBI agent provocateurs that you cannot find. But now all of a sudden, why, of course the FBI plants agents for the purposes of destabilizing me. Of course they do that. Well, we've been saying that now for decades, and you all said that's not true. Hell, the FBI was formed for the purposes of busting black organizations and busting black groups and destroying the black movement. That the FBI was founded for that. I mean, going after mobsters was kind of a sideline, but they were a central intelligence agency for the purposes of spying on Americans, but most importantly on black folk. That was J. Edgar Hoover's idea of maintaining national security. That was his idea of it. And now all these decades later, these guys are trying to jump up and act like, well, ooh, that's what they're doing there. Well, why? Because they're doing it to you. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. Because they were watching you too. All of a sudden it was a problem. Because according to you, Congressman Higgins, it hasn't been a problem all this time. Because if you aren't defending our right to not be surveilled and infiltrated by the FBI, then you cannot suddenly jump up and claim you have a right to not be infiltrated and agitated by the FBI. You've been totally silent about it with us. As a matter of fact, he's a former military and a cop, so he's been one of the folks here in charge of that. Now, all of a sudden, he's upset because the monster that he created and the animal that they've been feeding all this time has now decided to start chomping and munching on them. You can't create an animalistic beast like this and then expect that you're going to be able to keep it under control. That's not what's going to happen. You create this monster, and you will have to live with this monster. Of course, live is a relative term because the monster will demand to devour you also. Now the monster is chewing on him, and he's like, oh, hell, this hurts. I imagine it does. You're going to be devoured. Now, that's exactly what happens. Being devoured is not a pleasant thing. And it's too late to whine and moan about it. The time for you to be diffusing and disarming the FBI was when they were coming after us. That was the time to do it then. That's when you had the most power. That's when you had the most stability. That's when you had the most influence. But you figure, well, it's good if they violate the rights of them folks over there. Now they're here to violate yours. And now you want to scream, ooh, the FBI don't need to be doing that. A little bit late now, cue ball. This is why what we do here matters. This is why our work matters. This is why it's mattered now for over a decade. This is why, because you all know exactly what I'm talking about. But what you haven't had is an insightful, informed, articulate apparatus that is spoken about this on a national level, speaks about it in a competent manner. People aren't out here debunking what I have to say every week. They can't debunk a word of it. You have a reliable, competent source of news and information and analysis predicting and projecting forward what's going to happen. Something that they pay these grad students pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then these media agencies pay them millions of dollars, and half the time they get it completely wrong. And yet you have it here. So all I can say is a survival mechanism grown out from the people itself. But you know, what happened to the others? Because that's a pretty good question when you think about it. What happened to the others? It's like, well, Jason, we see you, but, you know, where were the other news apparatus that were supposed to be out there? Well, I'll go ahead and let you all in on one here right now, because you're hearing from me. But are you hearing from anyone else? You're hearing from me, but are you hearing from anyone else? If you agree that we have 150,000 subscribers now because you get the news, insight, and information analysis you receive nowhere else, give me the fire emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. It's over 3,600 people in here live right now. Give me the fire emoji and hit the likes button for me. Because I want to discuss what happened, why it is you hadn't heard it somewhere else. Where is the apparatus we were supposed to have speaking for us? These folks who get this money from these big corporations and then all their connections. Well, I'll give you an idea. Well, if you take a look here, here's Bowling Ball Martin. Now, YouTube has given him over 1 million subscribers. Obviously, his view counts obviously show that this number is ridiculous, but YouTube tried their best because, as always, they know somebody who's never going to get anything done and that he's just looking to get bought off. And by the way, this hair, what is going on, Roland? Brother, it's time to update all of this. It really, really is. It's time to update all of this. You haven't looked like this now in over a decade and a half. This is like a high school photo. In any case, you got a fella here that YouTube, they give 1 million subscribers to, because just like Jeff Bezos gave Van Jones $100 million, they understand you have to fund these people. You can't expect them to be any type of counter influence to us if you don't give them a huge leg up. They can't fight equally. You've got to stack the deck outrageously unevenly in their favor for them to even be able to compete, much less be able to exceed. That you got to give them all the benefits. You got to try to give them a win. And isn't this amazing? They're giving you all these huge benefits and you're still not winning. But I want to go into something else, because while what I just said to you all might sound a little funny and a little humorous, and it is, what I have to say to you all here next is no laughing matter. What I have to say to you all next isn't funny and isn't a joke at all, because it reinforces the dire situation that we are in and why it is that the Roland Martins and all these political puppets who have been sent to black folk to deliver the black vote have to be weeded out and stopped. And it's not funny what I'm about to say next. If you go down through his list of live programs here over the last couple of days, you come across this right here on your screen. First, there was a video from Joe Biden. Biden blasts Trump as, quote, threat to democracy in first 2024 campaign. Vice President Harris marks January 6th calls on black voters to defend rights in South Carolina campaign trail. Stop. Folks, I want you to watch something here. Now, I can do this because of the way in which this was done. I want you to watch and witness and understand that this is no joke. This is no game. This is deadly serious, what you're about to watch, and it shows you what kind of trouble we are actually in and how invested the powers out here are in destabilizing, misleading, and dominating us. Now, this is directly from his page.
History? America saw the threat posed.
I'm skipping through this because I want you to see something. This is from the beginning of it here.
Thank you. Please. Thank you. Please. Thank you very, very much. Today, years ago, it's the very site that I think every American should visit. As a result of the events of that day. And what's Trump done? Instead of calling them criminals, he's called these insurrectionists patriots. Trump won't. Political violence is never, ever acceptable in the United States political system. Never, never, never.
Political violence is never acceptable. Joe Biden, you're the last person in the world who should be ringing that bell, shouldn't you? But I want you all to understand, I'm skipping through this right here because I want to show you something. Do you know what you don't hear? You don't hear Roland Martin's voice. Take a look at the graphics on your screen. Do you notice you don't see a Roland Martin graphic on there? Did you notice that you don't see that? Now, that's the thing I want to point out to you is, by the way, if anybody noticed there, you don't see a Roland Martin graphic. There's no Roland Martin graphic on there. I'm doing that because I want you all to recognize this has been posted directly on Roland Martin's YouTube channel as a live video. This was uploaded to Roland Martin's YouTube channel as a live video. Live. That's the point I want you to get. That's a live video. Made it stream, so that means he did that himself. Well, Jason, maybe you're just salty, or did you get the facts wrong, or this, that, and the other. Now, you know I didn't get the facts wrong. You know that didn't occur. You know that did not happen. Let me go ahead and remind you one more time right here. Bounce back over. Why? Look again. Here's another video here. As I just showed you there, one for Joe Biden. And then the very next video he posted, Kamala Harris. And what do you know? There she is. Oh, look. A live upload to Roland Martin's YouTube channel, not the Democratic National Committee channel, people, not the Congressional Black Caucus channel, to Roland Martin's YouTube channel. He was simulcasting these events, or at least mirroring them. Who does he work for? Because right now, today, he is behaving like an agent of the Democrat Party, up, down, and period. I want you to understand that this is what you're seeing. You go to his channel, he's got that up on there, and he's showing, it's got a live feed of just the whole thing, a 27-minute speech by Kamala Harris, 27 minutes straight, as if he is the Democratic cable news channel. Do you understand how dangerous this is? Do you understand how deadly this is and what they must have given him? This shows you how desperate the Democrat Party is today. What did they give him to do this? I know for most of you, you figure all they have to do is give him a BLT. But what I'm telling you is, no, what did they give him? Because, you know, Roland has been leaning on them and pressuring them and trying to knuckle them under for the longest time to throw him some more biscuits so that, you know, the real issue is y'all haven't spent enough money. You haven't done enough with me. So what did they offer him? How dire must their situation be that they told him, we want you to put up not one, but both appearances of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and you got to do that now? That we see this January 6th thing as something to push. As you all know, I am on Joe Biden's mailing list. Jason, what? I told y'all that a couple weeks ago. I looked up and found out that I was on his mailing list. I'm on Joe Biden's mailing list. And he has been, for the last 4 days, they have been the last 2.5 days, they've been relentless about January 6th. January 6th, the emails they keep sending for fundraising, January 6th, January 6th. So I'm not surprised to see that at the same time, they got Roland Martin echoing it too, because as far as they're concerned, that's grist for the mill. So apparently their spin doctors or their campaign strategists or their specialists, their communication specialists have told them January 6th is what you need to hammer on here. And you need to tell black people that they need to be really worried about January 6th, even though Joe Biden has been the one in Congress for the last 5 decades. So I want you all to take a look at that and realize that if you want to know why it is that we didn't make any progress in the media space, from Ebony Magazine until the New Black Media, if you want to know why it is, it's because this has been what has happened with pretty much all of your so-called major black media news outlets. This is what they did. All of them were looking to get bought off. All of them were looking to get co-opted. All of them were looking to get paid off. We're sitting out here fighting for survival. We're sitting out here fighting for our lives. We're sitting out here fighting to be heard. And these other folks, the Roland Martins, are sitting down with their big fat bellies up to the table, looking to see how much they can scarf down for themselves. And if the rest of us are suffering, oh well, so be it. And then you go over his janky ass YouTube channel and you see a never ending stream of would-be Roland Martins lined up, chomping at the bit for their turn to be the next ones to do the same thing. This isn't a joke when you go to Roland's YouTube channel and what he's showing on his live feed isn't a program from him. It's a broadcast from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's not you're going to the live button on his YouTube channel to see a live program from him. Even if you were a true believer in him, and if you are, you're just an idiot and dense. But in any case, you're looking for a live program from him, and what you end up with is a live stream of Joe Biden. A live mainstream political event of Joe Biden. I have said now for well over a decade that Roland Martin's purpose is to deliver the black vote. His job is to try to get paid to pretend to be a media outlet and a journalist. He pretends and he fails spectacularly in order to deliver the black vote. He's there to attempt to create a black audience so that he can deliver the black vote. That's his job. He got kicked off of cable media. He was hoping that he would be able to get a job at the White House under Obama. Was never going to happen. He was praying to God that Hillary Clinton would win. He was mobbed up with her campaign directly. He was getting the messages for the debate with Bernie Sanders directly from Hillary Clinton through Donna Brazile. He just knew there was going to be a White House or deputy White House press secretary position. And he just knew that finally, little short round dudes built like appetizers at Chili's would finally be able to elevate their station in society, and he would finally be known as more than a pizza bites built fella from cable TV news, who no longer is on cable TV news. And it didn't happen. And his failure in 2016 has crippled him and handicapped him ever since. So he has been wandering in the wilderness, hoping against hope that he can buy, shill, beg his way toward a second act. And that hopefully the fortunes of the Democratic Party would get so pathetic, so low, so desperate that eventually they would have to call him back in. And now he thinks he's found his shot. Now, I'm telling you right now, it will not work because it cannot work. But it just shows you how unscrupulous he is. And I say he, but in reality, he represents a whole phalanx of them, people. That's why I started off talking about Van Jones. The Van Joneses and the Don Lemons and the Bob Johnsons and the John Johnsons and the Byron Allens and the Roland Martins. People, that's all part and parcel of the same thing. All part and parcel of the same thing. And what's amazing is that even with the overwhelming advantage and resources that they all have, they are still unable to touch what we do. We are still stronger and more influential than any of them, even with the avalanche of financial support that they've received to try to boost them. We're still more influential than they are. Now, that's not the result of money. That is the result of hard, relentless work. That is the result of uncompromising, relentless work. So, after a decade and a half of doing what I do you realize how monumental that is to be at 150,000 subscribers? After a decade and a half. Do you realize how monumental that is? To be able to have that, to be able to show that as a metric, because here's the thing, we weren't given anything. Hell, this channel in particular, I had to shut this channel down for a couple of years because YouTube was targeting it to take the channel down. Even though there is absolutely no legitimate reason whatsoever to remove it, they were trying to take the channel down. I'd used my second channel, built that one up into a juggernaut of its own, and then said, you know what, let me switch back over here to this one. Just so I can make sure that I keep this one viable and everything. And the numbers have been going up steadily ever since here. That is despite the shadow banning. That is despite the negativity. That is despite being targeted. That is despite all of that. Take a look at what we've done despite the odds we're up against. Now imagine what we could do. Imagine where we would be if they were not giving us all these obstacles and all these headwinds. Imagine where we would be then. Imagine what that would be like. Well, here's the thing. We don't have to imagine it because they made sure that that did not occur. But I'll also tell you one more thing. What they also did was they showed the most dangerous thing you possibly could if you're somebody's opposition. You showed that you were afraid of us. You showed that you were scared of us. You showed that you were terrified of us. You blinked. You blinked. You showed that you were afraid of us. You showed that the body blows were getting through. You showed how relevant we were. You see, if we weren't relevant, you would have ignored us. If we were not relevant, if we weren't impactful, if we weren't having an effect, you would have just ignored us. And ignoring us doesn't mean shadow banning us. Shadow banning is the opposite of ignoring us. Ignoring us would have been simply we have our YouTube channels, and it doesn't matter whether we have 100,000 subscribers or 1 million subscribers. It's meh. You would have had us over there with the cat videos. You would have had us over there with the milk crate videos. You would have had us over there with the dancing barbershop videos. You would have had us over there with those. That's what you would have done if we really weren't relevant and really weren't having an effect. You wouldn't be trying to shadow ban us and taking videos down and threatening the channel. When you started doing that, you tipped your hand, man. You don't do that to somebody who's not having an effect. You only do that to somebody who's about to destroy everything. That's who you do that to. So you see, when you started coming after us early, you confirmed and validated to us how dangerous we really were. You showed how effective we really were. You showed how scared of us you really were. And all we've been doing since then is applying the pressure. You see, the reason why you're able to get the Roland Martins and Jamel Hills and Jamila Lemieux, all these would have beens and could have beens but never will be's, to sit up here and chase this imaginary brass ring is because they were all thinking that their audience was some corporation somewhere, some corporate audience, some cable TV audience somewhere. They've all been chasing that as their, quote, audience, the audience they aspire to. I've only had 2 audiences, just 2. Number 1, the people who listen in, who are dedicated to the mission and the purpose of Black empowerment. That's been my number 1 audience. And number 2, YouTube. Jason, what? Oh yes, YouTube. Why, I listen to YouTube also. As a matter of fact, YouTube is a major bellwether for me. I watch what they do. Because you see, they can't afford to leave me unmonitored. They also can't afford to leave me unharassed. They can't afford to do that. So you see, I watch to see how my videos hit. I watch to see when they start messing with it. I watch to see when they start putting tags on it. I watch to see when they suppress it. I watch to see when they start doing dirty little things. I watch that because I'm like, okay, there you go. There you go. See, that's what shows I'm relevant for me. That's the metric that I use for relevance. I don't listen to my friends. I listen to my enemies. You want to know how relevant you are? Don't listen to your friends. Listen to your enemies. Listen to the people who wish you absolutely no good whatsoever. Listen to them. And if they tell you that they're not scared of you and then they do things that only a scared person would do, oh, there it is. Yeah, there you are. There you are right there. There it is right there. I've said all of that, but I want to say one more thing. I want to say to all of you that you have my gratitude. I don't do this without you. There is no Black channel without you. There is no New Black Media without you. There is no message without you. As I've told you all time and time again, I'm just the messenger. All of you are the message. All of you are the message I came to bring. It doesn't matter what Jason Black got to say. He can sit up here and yell at the microphone every day for the rest of his life, and it is irrelevant if the only person that he represents is him. If the only person's message he came to bring was his, then he becomes irrelevant very quickly. And that's why most of the people who try to do what we do are irrelevant, because they came to promote their own agenda. It was so phony. It was so hollow. It was so obvious. That's all that they were trying to do. I've never been here for that. Never been here for that. I came here to promote you. I came here to bring them your message. And I've listened and I've listened and I've fine-tuned it, and I come back again. And then next thing you know, we tweak it a little bit more. And then we come back again and we tweak it a little bit more. And then I go over these things and I say, okay, let me go ahead and listen to what that is to have to say. And let me see if we can go ahead and fine-tune that again. As the conditions on the ground change, money, power, and influence. As the conditions change again, black empowerment. How do you measure black empowerment? Dollars. As we tweak it again, reparations. What do you mean by reparations? Cut the check. Next thing you know, I think that for most of you, you really started feeling that it was paying off when we're coming into out of 2016 and coming into 2020. I think you all really started feeling like it was paying off then. When you started seeing your television news outlets, I'm just saying, if you were listening to me, you were so far ahead of the curve. When you finally started seeing them, it's like, oh, they're picking up on it because it's obviously it's not real unless they say it. But then you heard them pick up on it and you heard them repeat it. And what I'm saying is that if you're waiting until the white corporate media apparatus says something, you're far behind the curve. If you really want to be up to date, that means you got to be ahead of the curve. If you're here with us, you're ahead of it. Why? Because we are not reporting events. We are pushing events. I didn't say creating them. We push events. That's what we do. We're too far behind to be reporting events. We have to push them. So what you'll notice is that the routine operating procedure here is not that we comment on events. We give you their historical context and then we give you their future ramifications. So therefore, the historical context puts what you see in its full, proper, understood context. Future ramifications tell you where this is going to go so that you can be prepared for what you will see and what you will experience. So you will be prepared for that. Because we cannot afford to be behind. We can only afford to be ahead. And it really is that serious. And all of you are instrumental in that. All of you are quintessential and instrumental in that. That is what is important. It's not about me. These other folks are trying to figure out a way to get themselves in this. It's not about me. It never has been. It's not about me. If it were about me, it'd be irrelevant a long time ago. It's not about me. That's the part that I'm focused on. I want to give you all a brief reminder of something. On my other YouTube channel, I posted a picture today for those of you who don't live in New York City. If you want to know the work of what we do here, on my other YouTube channel, I posted this picture. This is in downtown Brooklyn. In New York, that's a relative term, I get that, but this is downtown Brooklyn. I want you to take a look at the Brooklyn Tower. I did my film Gentrified. A lot of people did not understand it. A lot of folks didn't get Gentrified. Popular film, but a lot of folks didn't really understand it. And I have been saying for well over a decade that while everybody is screaming and yelling about the skyscrapers and the rising costs in Manhattan, don't you understand Manhattan is just the first to fall? Brooklyn is going to be Manhattan within the next 10 to 20 years. That the so-called super tall skyscrapers that have been the signature of only Manhattan, Brooklyn will now be the next stepping stone, and you will now see Brooklyn overrun with these super talls. Well, guess what? We are now down the home stretch. I said it long before anyone else. Some folks who lived in New York might have suspected, but most of them didn't even suspect. They were just hoping against hope it wouldn't get bad for them. I was saying the whole time, I was looking at the fact that it was spreading like a disease right across that Brooklyn Bridge. And by the way, let me scroll up something because this thing looks like the Tower of Saruman. This looks like something from the damn Lord of the Rings is what it looks like. So this is a rather menacing looking tower, by the way. This is a rather menacing looking tower. So I don't know if they colored it like this to let you know you're on the colored side of towers, but this is a rather menacing looking structure. But in any case, I was telling people this the whole time. I've been trying to warn people the whole time that if you thought that scurrying across that Brooklyn Bridge out of Manhattan over to Brooklyn was going to be your salvation and that you were going to be 50 years away from it happening, I was like, oh no, you're at ground zero. The Barclays Center? Oh, that's nothing. You're at ground zero. You're at ground zero. Only in Brooklyn, it's going to be a bunch of so-called residential towers is what they're going to have in Brooklyn. It's not going to be a bunch of commercial stuff. That's going to be residential. And they're going to tell you that it's mixed income, but understand how that mixed income thing works. They got a lottery system for it, which is a bunch of garbage. And it's all going to be priced out when they get done. When they get done, it doesn't matter what you think the rent should be. You will be paying market rent before it's over. Because that's what they want. And that's what it will be. And this one is just the first of many. So the folks in Brooklyn who used to be able to see the sky and whatnot and talking about, well, having the skyscrapers blocking out the skyline and the sunlight, that's just a problem for Manhattan. No, it's going to be your problem here too now. This is going to be your problem too. And oh yeah, by the way, for anybody who might have doubted me here before, need to remind you that I was the guy who pointed out to all of you that when Amazon lost its bid to make their new headquarters in Long Island City, which is in Queens. For those of you who don't live in New York, I know you know about Long Island, but Long Island City is in Queens. And I warned everybody, keep your eye on Queens now, because Amazon showing that they were interested in that big plot of land and having big, large plots of land in New York is a rarity. I said, that's going to put a bullseye on the back of Queens. Guess what? That's already started. So what they're going to do, they've already perfected the art in Manhattan. They are expanding and refining the techniques in Brooklyn. They're going to cut their teeth in Queens. Because remember, that's where the airports are. I don't look for anything to happen in Staten Island anytime soon. But then next will be the Bronx. The Bronx would be last. But that's only because right now folks are buying land in the Bronx, but they're not developing anything in the Bronx. So they're buying land in the Bronx right now. There's not any real major developments going on, but the Bronx will be last. So if you consider this to be a 100-year strategy, and it is, the Bronx will be on the tail end of that 100-year strategy. So look for the children or the grandchildren to come and develop and devour the Bronx. Look for them to get that. Look for them to get that. So you're going to see some small developments happen in those other areas, but as far as like super talls, look for that to come later. But I've warned people, do you think you're going to be able to live there with this kind of thing going on? And furthermore, did you ever hear this kind of in-depth analysis speaking about specific buildings, specific blocks, specific boroughs? Folks, you don't even really hear this on the New York local news. They tell you about the stuff that's happened after it's occurred. They don't even tell you about this on the local news. I did a whole documentary predicting all of this. They don't even talk about this on the local news. They don't even talk about it there. You want some more? Let me give you some more. I've also got another one here, another post that I put up earlier, also showing that. This was coming from from Florida Atlantic University. Florida Atlantic University put together a list of the top 10 most overpriced U.S. cities. Now there was a bit of an error on the screen because they actually listed the same 5 cities twice. So I didn't have time to go and get the whole list from them like that, but I want you to go ahead and take a look at what they have listed on here. As you can see, the top 5 so-called overpriced cities according to Florida Atlantic University. Number 1 is Atlanta. Top 10 most overpriced U.S. cities. Number 1 is Atlanta? What? Yeah. Number 2, Cape Coral, Florida. Number 3, Charlotte, North Carolina. Number 4, now one that I mentioned going on almost a decade ago because that was the inspiration for my film Gentrified, Memphis, Tennessee. Now, it wasn't Memphis that was the inspiration for it. It was Nashville, Tennessee. I was coming back on Interstate 40. I lost GPS navigation. I got off the freeway. I ended up pulling into, I didn't know where I was. I just wanted to try to regain my GPS, and being on the freeway was not helping. I pulled off the freeway and just pulled into some apartments that at the time were under construction. But there was nobody there, so I just pulled over for a minute so I can try to get my bearings. And that's when I realized, when I looked around, I just looked out the window waiting for my GPS to come back. And that's when I saw, well, wherever I am, there are a bunch of tower cranes. And having come from the construction industry like I did, I'm like, well, I understand what a tower crane represents. Typically speaking, rule of thumb, what a tower crane represents is either something very tall or something very heavy. A structure that is very tall or very heavy. And I'm taking a look around this skyline. I didn't even know I was in Nashville yet. I didn't even know I was in Nashville, Tennessee. I was still trying to figure out exactly where I was. It was only later that I realized this is Nashville, Tennessee? And I'm looking around and I'm seeing the skyline and I'm like, my God, I'm counting over a dozen tower cranes. That means within the next 24 months, the skyline of this city is going to be radically transformed. And it was. And that was when I said, I think I know what my next project is going to be, because this isn't possible. This shouldn't be possible. Not this far away from a major metropolitan area. We shouldn't see something like this. And that was when I really started digging into it and talked to Professor Fraser and other people. And that was when I realized, oh, the big money is now pouring billions, not millions, billions into your mid-sized markets, and not just into mid-sized markets, but into developing mid-sized markets. They're no longer looking for the next mid-sized city to capitalize on. They're trying to create mid-sized cities to capitalize on. So if your city has 200,000 people, or in the case of Nashville, at the time, hundreds of thousands of people in Davidson County, well, what can we do to capitalize on that? What can we do to build that out and build that up? What can we do to make that happen? So that's the idea now, is building mid-sized markets, building cities for people to populate in, building the amenities. That's what it's about now. And are you ready for that type of multi-billion-dollar focus right where you are? That you're nowhere near Los Angeles, you're nowhere near Phoenix, Arizona, you're nowhere near Dallas, Texas, and yet there are developers and international money and global money looking to target you. Folks, did you ever hear any of this over in the dead black media all this time? Did you ever hear any of it? Did they ever even tell you not that it was going to happen, but that it was happening while it was? Forget being ahead of the curve. Did they even report to you what was happening? Hell, have they said anything about it now? Oh, no, they won't, because they're too busy telling you that everything is fine because Joe Biden is here. Remember? Roland is telling you all right now that everything is great because Joe Biden's in office. Everything's fine, and you just need to vote for him so you can get some more of this goodness. That's what he's telling you. Meanwhile, we're saying something totally different. Now, I warned everyone then, because for those of you who don't live in, if you don't travel extensively by car, not by airplane, if you don't travel extensively by car so that you can see how America's interstates connect the major cities, then those are things you don't know. On the West Coast, Interstate 5 going all the way from Seattle down to San Diego. So Seattle, Portland, all your major cities on that seaboard out there, except San Francisco. If you don't know that, then you don't know. Interstate 10, 20, 30, 40, 95. So if you haven't traveled by car, you haven't really witnessed what's happening in these major cities or how they connect from one to another. So if you haven't actually driven Interstate 40 through the state of Tennessee, not just you got on and got off, if you haven't driven it through the state of Tennessee, then you don't realize how close Nashville and Memphis really are. They're a couple hours away, but they're not really terribly far from each other. It's not like a 9-hour drive. So what I'm saying is that when I saw what was happening in Nashville, I said, oh man, Tennessee, you're in the crosshairs. Now, this seemed to be ridiculous at the time. It seemed to be ridiculous at the time because you would be expecting to believe that, well, Tennessee, who wants that? It's a bit of spit and grit. It's a spit and grit. Oh, it's all hood. Who wants Memphis? You got to travel and besides, it's 3 hours away from Nashville. That's nothing. That's nothing. That's nothing. And I was sitting here warning the whole time, yeah, Memphis, Tennessee, the bastard baby capital and whatnot. Man, y'all better wake up. Memphis, Tennessee, for those of you who haven't been there, by the way, Memphis, Tennessee proper tends to have a lot of issues that are notorious, but I want y'all to understand the suburbs outside of Memphis, man, look here. When you're talking about the suburb areas outside of Memphis, they are big, they are expensive, they are well built out, huge highways, huge thoroughfares, all the amenities. I want y'all to understand that's not outside the place, just right on the outside of Memphis city limits. Not where the airport is and all that. I understand that's kind of grungy, but folks who live in Memphis, y'all understand this. Oh, just right outside the city proper itself. Oh, they got the suburbs built all the way out. They got it built all the way out. All the shopping plazas, all the thoroughfares, all the Panera Breads, they got all that built out. Not on its way, all built out already. Already. Who was telling you about this? Who was talking about this? Who was saying this? Who was mentioning this? If we weren't doing it here, who was even going to say this? So when they talk about Ford bringing a plant there and trying to target black folk and remove them, we were already on the ground and already talking about it. We were already speaking about it. We already had our finger on the pulse of it. Roland had to get out Google Maps and go find it. We were already there. We already been there. We were there a decade ago. That is what this 150,000 subscribers represents. That's what that means. That represents real work, real effort, accurate reporting, finger on the pulse, down on the ground, in the soil, connected to the people, speaking to the issues, not being puppets of a political party giving a propaganda line that they fed to us, but speaking what was in the interest of our people. And so I'm proud of what we've done because I know that this represents 50 times the work of anyone else. But I'm also grateful to all of you because it hasn't been easy being you either. It's easy being part of the most popular team. It's easy being on the team where everybody sits up here and cheers your name and shakes their pom-pom. It's easy being that team, man. It's easy being the glory. It is easy being the New England Patriots. It's a cakewalk, daddy. The lights are on. Tom Brady is sitting over there preening for the cameras, gleaming them teeth. It's easy being a New England Patriot. It's easy being a 49er. I ain't beating up on you, but you know it's true. It's easy being the Lakers. Being the Lakers or being the Yankees, man, that's easy. All you do is show up for your photo shoot, preen for Sports Illustrated, make sure your suits are tight and cleaned up and pressed right. It's easy being them. You know who is hard being? It's hard as hell being the New Orleans Saints. It is hard being the Saints. It is hard being Green Bay. It is hard being the Cowboys, even though there are a lot of that self-inflicted wounds, but you understand. It's hard being them. It's hard being a team that doesn't get the glamour, doesn't get the pats on the back, doesn't get to sit up here and shine your pearly whites, can't sit up here and sell off in it. It's hard when you only win or get some if you can get out there and dig it out the mud. It's hard being them. It's hard being the Houston Rockets. It's tough. It is hard being them. The only time you get anything is if it's you got to get out. You know full well it's like, oh, you didn't cheat to get it because you can't pay off enough people. You have to actually go earn it. Let me tell y'all, it's tough being y'all. It is tough being the people in this audience. It's tough being the people who back this because everybody else is being given a whole lot more accolades and a whole lot more attention and a whole lot more shine. It's tougher, but let me also tell you it's better. It's better because while these other folks are watching their fortunes change, while these other people bought into yesterday, you all bought into tomorrow. And tomorrow's here. These other folks are scared of what's going to happen because they were trying to hold on to what was. We were all fully invested in what will be. So I want you all to understand that when you take a look at these numbers, I appreciate it. I appreciate you because it wasn't given to me. You didn't give this to me. What you've done is validate that I've done the right thing. You're validating that I've served you well. I have always referred to myself as your servant. Part of that is me showing up on holidays. Folks, I've had things that have happened. I've had bad things that have occurred. I've had monstrous things that have occurred personally. I don't talk about it. I won't talk about it. That's not for you. That's not for you to see. That's not for you to hear. But I also consider that to be part of my mission and my purpose as your servant. That even when things are going bad, even when things are going terrible, my job is to show up. My job is to show up. My job is to be here. Because white supremacy never takes a holiday, and neither do any of you. So even when it's tough, even when it's difficult, even when it's damn near impossible, hell, even sometimes when it is impossible, I believe that all of you, if the roles were reversed, I believe that you, on a daily basis, many of you, you have to drag yourself up. You have to pull yourself and drag yourself out of bed. You have to drag yourself out of your stupor. You have to drag yourself out of your depression. You have to find a way and find a reason to keep pushing on. Many of you, I believe that's exactly where you are. So I just see what I do as an extension of you. That I keep pushing no matter what the odds are, because I know you would do the same. So I just want you all to know that I see that and I appreciate that. Project Leroy, Mike TV, Pocket Watchdog, Cyberdyne, everyone else here who's contributed to tonight's program, I want to thank you so much for your support because that means a lot. But it means a lot because I know that you've got bills. I know you've got needs. I know you've got stuff you have to take care of. And knowing that you're sacrificing for all of us, that just tells me, hey, dude, you're going to have to shake that 101 fever off. Or even if you can't, you better get you some ice. And by the way, just so you all will be aware, let me show you. No kidding, no joking, no games. I got a fever of 100 as we speak. It's been dipping down, so I'm kind of strange when it comes to these kind of things here. I don't get sick very often, and I know what it was that caused it. It was not a communicable disease. It was other things here. All I can say here, folks, is don't go around where your parents taught you don't eat everybody's cooking. So, needless to say, I made a big mistake. But fever's been fluctuating a little bit. It's been going down. My temperature's been going down to almost normal, but then it goes back up again to 100. Believe it or not, that's what usually happens when I get ill. It'll be like a few days later. Most symptoms will subside, but the fever, for whatever reason, fevers tend to stick around with me for a little bit longer. So I'll just bounce between normal temperature and 100, and just as the day goes on, when I get up in the mornings, my temperature will be fine. As the day goes on, it goes up again, and it'll go down, and it'll go up. And it just kind of does that for a couple of days. So it's like, okay, if I wait until I'm not feverish, if I wait until all the body aches and all, if I wait until I feel good enough to sit in the microphone, I'm just never going to do it. So I got to drag myself out here. And I got to do that too. And I do that because that's my service to all of you. That's my service to you. So I want to thank all of you for making this possible. I want to thank all of you for making it worth it. Thank you all for your well wishes. Get well soon. I'm well enough. Let me tell y'all something. If I ever waited until I was 100% to get in front of this microphone, it's unlikely that I would ever do more than 2 or 3 programs a year. I'm just telling y'all right now, that's the way this is. That's the way this works. If I had to wait until everything was right, everything was perfect, my headspace was perfect and it's blissful and everything's in order and nothing's messing with me and nothing's out of place, man, if I had to wait until then, I would probably do 2 or 3 programs a year if I had to wait for that. Most of the time when I come out here and whatnot, there's something going on. There's something that's got to be handled. There's some sort of business that's been left unattended to or that's had to be interrupted. There's always something going on. There's always something I'd rather not be happening. That's just going to be the way it is. So the real question isn't, can you get all this stuff out the way? The real question is, can you function in the middle of adversity? Can you function in adversity? Not can you remove all adversity? That's a dream. Can you function under adverse conditions? Can you function when conditions aren't perfect? Can you function when conditions are torturous? Can you function when that happens? Can you do that? And I believe, I know that most of you do the same thing. Most of you have to operate under adverse conditions, difficult circumstances. In some cases, you all are operating under impossible circumstances, and you're still finding a way to do it. So how could I possibly expect less of you, more of you than I expect of myself, or less of myself than I expect of you? How could I do that? I don't see how. So thank you all. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, we'll be discussing this and more. This is the Black Channel.
Hello, my name is Steve Burge. I'm the author of this book, Guidelines for the Successful Student, a closer look at parenting your school-aged child. In this book, I've explained the role of the parent and the student in addition to what accommodations, procedures, rewards and consequences and expectations that need to be in place to ensure student success from primary to high school. This book is available on Amazon.com. For more information, please visit my link tree at Easy One-on-One. And to access my latest podcast, A Teaching Moment with Mr. B. Thank you all for listening.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black First. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spiritOf1811publishing.com and show your love.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Natural Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com. Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. What I want to do, I want to see about taking some phone calls. I would like to do that. We'll try that here. The Princess Zamunda, I think, is still, though, trying to do a voodoo ceremony. So then I'm going to see if we can try to get me moves. If they're not going back on their, if they're not going back to their migrant home here, I'm going to see if I can find another place for me to be. But in the meantime, I did want to let you all know, like I say, I'm trying to have that be as unintrusive as possible, but if I can't avoid it, then I guess I got to do something a little bit different. But why don't I go ahead and light that up for you all here? The telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. And as always, you are welcome to join us. Yeah, boy, I'm telling you, it's bad enough to have all that going on. And then, this big hearty laugh too. It's ha 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 ha. I'm like, wow, dude, you're happy not to have to be, burning your garbage, and you sure are thrilled about that, aren't you? That's the kind of situation it's been. It's been that kind of situation. Like the scene from Shaka Zulu where they oiling him down. I'm just imagining. I'm like, wow, okay, is that going on over there? Because you are thrilled. You really, really are. What do you say? He's happy. What is this cold thing? Oh, icebox. So, like I said, I'm like, okay, brother, you and the whole team over there. It's him and the whole team. I don't mean to fake on anybody's shine or to be a downer on their day, but I'm just saying, brother, is it that funny all the time? Is it really? It's just been a nonstop celebration. So it's Hakuna Matata, Hakuna Matata, Hakuna Matata. All right. Munabalazi. Okay. And then it's just, I'm like, those international minutes, how many did they give y'all? And here's the crazy part about it. He didn't start doing it till it's time for me to start broadcasting. Like about 10 minutes before it's time for me to start broadcasting, here he goes. I thought last night was just, an anomaly. Oh, hell no. No. I come back tonight and it's like, okay, 10 minutes before broadcast time. Hey, lazy. I'm I'm like, oh boy. He's like, ooh, I'm glad to have carpeting. He's like, wow, this don't feel nothing like the goat skin back in the village. This is carpeting. This feels great on my toes. Half expect him to come over here. Excuse me, brother. Do you know what the white woman is? Okay. No, brother, I ain't got no white women for you. You sound like you would have something. I don't know where you picked it up from. No, I don't have nothing to offer you, give you, point you towards. I don't even know this city like that. So if I did, I wouldn't be throwing them up there. So it's just no, dude. No. Oh, you are lame. I'll be lame then, but fine. All right, let me see if I can get over here to the telephone lines. Let me get caller from area code 951. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay, caller from 951 has been abducted. Caller from area code 510. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Mr. Jason Black. This is Black Voltron calling out of East Oakland, California. How you doing?
Black Voltron, what's on your mind, brother?
Hello?
Okay. Are you hearing me? Because if they're not hearing me, I got to get this thing checked out.
I hear you.
He says he's not hearing me. Okay.
Okay, I can hear you now.
All right, I thought that was a little bit better. All right, what's on your mind, brother?
Hey, I just wanted to say congratulations to you on the 150 subs, and thank you for everything you've done, the sacrifices you've given, and sacrifices right now. I know you're sick with the fever, and stay away from the folks cooking. Watch out. But man, I just really appreciate what you've done for us out here on these streets, and just providing the several platforms for us to have some competent, constructive, productive, and informative information that you can pass down to us, and basically helping to destroy that old Sambo media, because before it was just like it was just one big ass coon fest. Listen to Roland Martin, Tom Joyner, Ricky Smiley, and all the rest of these Sambos. I'm just so happy all this bullshit is coming to an end, because before it was just Funk Fest, Democratic plantation games, and just nonsense that did nothing to better us as Black people, especially us as foundational Black Americans. I'm just so glad that the discourse has changed thanks to you, Professor Black Truth, Tariq, and now we done spawned a whole bunch of new Black media people that we're no longer on that nonsense anymore, and we are definitely on not just the cutting edge, but the bleeding edge of, Black discourse. And I think the coon era is coming to an end,
Well,
based on
here's what's important to me, because, having brothers like yourself who've been out there for as long as you all have been, you're not followers of what we do. You are essential sources of information. Let me be very, very clear. CNN, it doesn't matter how many reporters CNN has. They're never going to give you the real about what's happening on the ground. They're never going to tell you what the real sentiment is. Number one, they don't know it. Number two, if they did know it, it's not in their interest to say it. So having people like you in Oakland, in the Bay, telling us what's really going on, having folks in Los Angeles telling us what's really going on, people in Brooklyn and the Bronx telling us what's really going on, in DC and Atlanta telling us what's really going on, that's very, very important for us to have. Because, we're not a big media apparatus here. We don't have reporters on call. We're not funded by some multi-billion-dollar multinational. So to have folk like yourself who actually live in these places and call in and report, and you follow us year after year and keep us up to date on what's going on, what's happening when something happens, that's really been one of the major keys. This is a place where we get to talk and discuss these things from first-person perspectives on the ground of what's happening. So I want to send a salute out to you, as well as to everyone else who's done what you've done and made sure that all of us stayed informed about that, because California is like an island. It really, really is. I mean, once you get past Texas, and I should know, once you get past Texas, I mean, California, there's really nothing. I don't want to know it just to everybody else. I mean, California is just out there by itself, really, which is why I don't go very often, because it's a hassle to get out there. And if I do go out there, I got to stay for a while because it's a hassle to come back. So for those of you who are out there across that divide and everything, it's important for us to have that connection. You all serve a very, very, very valuable purpose.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you. And thanks to everybody else out there that are doing their part. I just wanted to contribute. I'm only one man, and but when I look at my child, I imagine a better future for her. And that's the reason why, I participate in these new Black media spaces and do everything I can humanly possible, not just to change the discourse, but to change the course of history for her and the rest of my descendants. So, hey, man, keep doing what you're doing, brother. I can't wait for the next, for the next 4 years, next 10 years, next 50 years, next 100 years, so that, we can be on that right path of, just building even more Black empowerment. Be one to the fullest, Jason.
Black first, brother. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. For those of you who do have children and you're involved and active in what we do here, I know this is going to sound really bad to a lot of you. I know this, and I know it's going to, it may not thrill you to hear this, but one day there's going to be some type of Freedom of Information Act request, and your children or your grandchildren are going to put in for a request, or they're going to have to sue for it, or documents are going to have to be declassified, and your name is going to be in those files. Just like when they talk about all the agents and all the agent provocateurs and whatnot, and all the folk they paid off. By the way, for those of you who are here, your name will be in a file somewhere. And the more active you've been, the more times it will be there. And one day your children are going to look up and be like, I'll be damned. My dad was doing that. My mom was doing that. They were about that business. And they're going to, baby, don't listen to us. Listen to the FBI. Listen to COINTELPRO. Listen to the government. They'll be the ones to tell you what we did. If anybody doubts how real we were about this or how effective we were, let them tell you. I'm letting y'all know right now, some of you are going down in history, just maybe not the way you thought you would. But for some of you, especially those of you who've been most active here, I want you to understand that is the way that goes. I used to think, like so many of you, I used to think as long as folk weren't banging on my front door, it wasn't an issue. People, that is not the way it works. That is literally not the way it works. It doesn't work that way at all. So just understand that that's where we at. So for many of you, your names will go down in history as an accolade when your kids get to see you is about that business. In a government file somewhere, in an FBI file, in a declassified document, that's where your work's going to be documented. And I proudly stand with all of you. Let me get caller from area code 323. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, good evening, Big Brother Jason. This is Brother Elijah calling out of Wheaton, Maryland.
Brother Elijah, what's on your mind?
Brother, congratulations, all right, for your new milestone. I've been riding with you for 6 going on 7 years, ever since December 2017, brother. I'm very proud of this accomplishment. It's not just an accomplishment for you, it's for all of us in the B1 family, because we need you. You know, we need you, Professor Black Truth, Tariq, and everybody in the B1 family. And I'm happy you're still here with us. I'm happy you're still doing the work. And we're going to be riding with, you know, you are the rest of my life. I'm dedicated to you and every thought leader that's out here. So I just got to say congratulations to you again. I got a question, brother. I'm originally from Brooklyn, so I definitely saw that Brooklyn Tower. With when you hit on a sensitive point. You said in the next 100 years, the Bronx, that's going to be the basically the tail end of it, by the probably in 100 years or so. Well, I'm down here in the Washington, D.C. area. I see all the skyscrapers they have down here, or at least close to it. It's not as tall as New York. And then when you just mentioned Nashville, Tennessee, I had this dream when all this stuff is built out, and from what you just said, I had this dream. Will there be, do we have at least one black city left? I keep thinking maybe just Atlanta, but I don't know if there's even another chocolate city out here. I could be wrong. What do you think is like?
I'm very glad you asked that.
Last resort?
I'm very glad
Yes,
you
sir.
asked that, because there is a reason why I did that. Now, I want you all to understand that the metrics that they were using at Florida Atlantic University when they were talking about, the most overpriced U.S. cities, is not the metric of which one has the highest dollar amount. It's really market specific in that regard. So think of it as a per capita is what they were using. But what I'm telling you is that
Yes, sir.
what they're acknowledging is that Atlanta is a city that is growing. But we also need to understand one more thing. Atlanta is a city that has been solidly under black leadership, for better or worse, for the last 40 years. Atlanta
Yes, sir.
is the worst case scenario and the nightmare scenario for the white supremacist structure. A major American city that is a go-to place, the number one airport in the world, Hartsfield-Jackson. That's a nightmare scenario.
Yes, sir.
How do you declare black leadership to be genetically inferior with Atlanta sitting right there skunking everybody? How do you do that? Well, you can't do
Yes,
it.
sir.
And another thing is Atlanta has not been overrun with immigrants yet. So they haven't done to Atlanta what they did to Chicago and New York and some of these other places. So Atlanta hadn't had that problem. You see, we had a good black presence in Dallas, and then they opened up the floodgates there to Mexico. New Orleans, I already explained to you all about after the Vietnam War. And they brought in the Vietnamese and whatnot, specifically for the purposes of destabilizing us there. Atlanta was more protected, so you can't get all the places you want to get. D.C. Now, D.C. had Marion Barry, but you had Marion Barry literally up against the United States government. I mean, the FBI came
Yes,
for
sir.
him for smoking crack. The FBI came to him. That shows you just how dedicated and how large the focus of hurting us and terminating us was. When the federal government is after one mayor, the federal government is after a mayor, that tells you this is bigger than a mayor. So they understood what he was doing in D.C. He was setting a lot of black folk up for generational prosperity and was making no bones about it. Oh, you got to go. So what I'm telling you is that there's a number of places that can happen, but there are a lot of destabilizing influences in other areas. I suggest to you that what you see on this list on your screen is actually the blueprint of the future. Atlanta, Charlotte, Memphis, these areas where black folk are being conditioned to hate it because, it's too many black folk and it's too hood and there's too much mess going on. But what I'm saying is that these are areas here that these other folks are investing in. Their job is to convince you that it's not worth investing in. And then you wake up one day and realize it is. Let me give you an example. Traveled all around this country. Let me go ahead and just take the East Coast, for example. Let's just take the East Coast, for example.
Yes, sir.
You take a look at a place like Savannah, Georgia. You take a look at a place like Charleston. You take a look at a place like Wilmington, North Carolina. You take a look at Myrtle Beach. You take a look at Virginia Beach. I can keep going. I noticed something about those areas. They got boardwalks. They got river walks. And those have been things that have been used as anchors, major investments that have been used to basically generate huge amounts of capital in those areas. They're used as anchors. So anything that's near large bodies of water or rivers and whatnot. You got a boardwalk and a river walk, and they've been used to great effect and great success in these areas. Especially like in a place like Wilmington. Y'all, if you've never been to Wilmington, I recommend you go. And you go check out and take a look at what's happening in Wilmington. When you want to see, Wilmington was a all black city at the turn of the 20th century. That was an all black city. And it was the white supremacists who violently ran out the black population and the black government. And to this day, Wilmington's librarian and government have been working relentlessly to make sure that they hide the evidence of that and prevent us from having restorative justice, hiding the documents, refusing to disclose them, the whole 9 yards. I've talked about this before years ago. But
yes,
that is what you had. And what I'm saying is Wilmington is one tale among many. But I want you to understand what the elements and what the differences were. So if you're asking me, what are the key elements that would ensure the type of black prosperity that you're referring to? Number one, it has got to be for those of us who are the descendants of the slaves. When they bring the newcomers over here, there's hand-selecting newcomers who are anathema to us. If one slips through who isn't hostile to us, they try to sideline them. They try to segregate them. Like, okay, let's go ahead and knock you down like the rest of them. So that's what happens there. So if you see them being brought in large numbers, they're being brought in large numbers because like, oh, you're going to help us, the status quo. You're going to fight against the freemen. So I want you all to understand that those are the things you're looking for is a large population of foundational people. That's what you're looking for first and foremost. A place that has a large yet solid population of foundationals who are connected to our culture, who are connected to our accomplishments, who don't see white supremacy as a myth, and who understand what we're actually up against. And that is what fuels black excellence. Not a bunch of people sitting among you who are double agents and got ulterior motives. So I see that as a major crucial component. So when I take a look at this list and I see Atlanta and Charlotte, Memphis, and I can name some other places too. When I see that kind of thing, St. Louis, when I see that kind of thing, places that have deep cultural roots for us, that's the kind of thing I would be looking for. So what I'm saying is these are the things that happen at a glacial pace sometimes, and sometimes it can be imperceptible. You got folks who are going to try to down talk Atlanta now. I certainly have my criticisms of Atlanta, but there's never been a criticism of Atlanta that I will ever levy that's going to say, you know what, let's turn it back over to the white supremacists. Now, that's never going to come out of my mouth. New Orleans has a lot of issues today. I have never told you all the solution is to get the white folks back and running it. I've never said that.
Yes, sir.
That's the solution. What we need to do is have us running it, but we also understand that as long as the Democrat Party is involved, they're going to send in folks whose job is to talk one way while they undermine us. So if you want to know what I see the solution as being or what those places to be, I've always said don't see it as one place, but if you're looking for geographic regions, I actually think the list that I see on here is a good start, but here's the issue. It doesn't matter where you go if you are broke and powerless. It doesn't matter where you go. If you have no resources to bring to the table, it doesn't matter what city I drop you off in. It doesn't matter how strong the black population, how dedicated, how focused, how motivated. If you're all sitting there and you're broke and have no resources, no direction, no aim, no drive, then it's only going to be a matter of time before you are squatters or renters in your own city. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. So more importantly than just identifying a geographic region is for you to be a financial region unto yourself. You are a cell in the black body. Just like cells in the human body, you are a cell in the black body. If you are making yourself a strong and healthy cell, then you are contributing to a strong and healthy body. Do not underestimate your value. That is the biggest mistake you can make. Your value is incredible. When you become valuable, then when you set up in a city, guess what? You supercharge the value of that city. Let me give you all an idea here. I mentioned to you all here before. I think I mentioned this here last night. A lot of you think that $500,000 is a bunch of money or $1 million is a bunch of money. Meanwhile, you got the average house in Atlanta going for $400,000. So damn near $500,000. Okay. You could build a hotel If you have a franchise of choice or one of the others and whatnot, building the average one of those is between $5 to $7 million. Now think about that for a few moments. When you're going up and down the Beltway in Atlanta, up and down 85, I remember a decade ago when they were building all the hotels along that thing. Where's your equity in the game? Douglasville, where's your equity in the game? By the way, they got a big old sign built out there. Saw that a little while ago. That's kind of new. I've been watching that for years. I was like, okay, watch out for that. Next up, Villa Rica. Atlanta, that Atlanta Metroplex is becoming a mega city, y'all. It's becoming a mega city. Think about that for a few moments. You think they want us to have control of a mega city? How do you economically freeze us out when we've got a mega city? How do you do that? You understand that that fundamentally changes things. How do you do that? How do you do that? In the chat room, Ricky12 needs to call up. So mods, go ahead and get his information. Ricky12 needs to call up. Let me get caller from area code 213. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello? Hello? Is this Jason Black?
Yes, you're on live. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going? My name is L.A. Trey. Big fan of yours there, JB. Before I give you my piece, I just want to tell you that your fearlessness, courage, candor, and leadership is very inspirational. That being said, thank you for your work and everything. That being said, at the beginning of your show, you mentioned roly-poly, right? And I had, I listened to, I just happened to listen to, I don't really listen to roly-poly. I've probably listened to about 2 of his shows or whatever. But today he put a show out that I was really interested in. And it was about this guy. What surprised me, what you said, was how he's basically the Democratic talking piece, right? And so his video today was about this guy, Harry Dunn, right? Harry Dunn, he was one of the officers during the J6 riot, right? And this guy, the biggest agent ever, one of the biggest SWS tools that's going to get broken at some point, but he's running for Congress now, right? Okay. So
let me find
when I saw
out
this
here.
Video.
How long have you been listening to my program?
A couple of years, probably about maybe 3 years or so.
Okay.
Maybe longer.
He says that, and yet he said it was a show. So I'm just a little off about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry if I used the wrong terminology or whatever.
He's been listening for years.
But
he's been listening for years now. So, in any case, here, folks are aware about the officer who now wants to run for Congress. Like what's her name, McBath, and all the rest of them. Obviously, he's been hand-selected by the party because they think they can make some hay out of this.
Exactly.
They obviously think that January 6th is some type of touch point or some hot button that they can use. I think they are just desperately flailing in the wind. I don't think they even have anything there. I think what it really shows is how inept the party is right now, and quite frankly, how bankrupt of any actual resources they are. That they're refusing to talk to what actually needs to be talked to. So they're just going to throw up every bit of window dressing and distraction they possibly can to change the subject in any way they possibly can, to distract as much as you possibly can. But I think everyone sees this for what it is. And for that reason, I don't think folks are going to pay it much attention. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 310. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm Corinne Todd from Houston, Texas.
Okay. Who from Houston?
Me.
Okay. Michelle A. from Houston, Texas. Okay. What is your name?
From Texas. From Houston, Texas.
Okay, is that your pimp behind you trying to tell you what your name is in real time? Can you not speak for yourself?
No, that's my dad, actually.
Okay, my apologies there, but folks, okay, I'm asking what the name is, and folks can't tell. Young person, try your name one more time.
My name's Corinne.
Hello, Corinne. And how old is Corinne?
I'm 12 years old.
Okay, Corinne is 12 years old. Welcome to the Black Channel, Corinne. Corinne calling from Houston, Texas. And what is on your mind?
Well, last week, me and my dad were listening to your podcast and broadcast, sorry. And we were trying to, he was trying to chat something, and we noticed that it was saying we couldn't chat anything because we haven't been subscribed for longer than 2 weeks. And my dad has been listening to your broadcast for over 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. And he's been subscribed since then. And YouTube is unsubscribing him. And they also did that with Professor Black Truth. And just for people that forgot or don't know, just to go check to make sure that they're still subscribed, because I'm pretty sure you have a lot more over than 150 subscribers, 150,000 subscribers. I'm pretty sure you have a lot more.
Well,
but YouTube is trying to unsubscribe people.
Well, certainly there is that. Now, I will tell you on this particular channel here, now I do have a restriction that you can't comment if you haven't been subscribed for more than 4 weeks. So that's gotten rid of most of the spam bots and things like that. So that's really gotten rid of a lot of that. So I put that restriction on there to remove the spam bots and things like that from occurring. So if it's only been subscribed for 2 weeks, that'd be an issue. Now, if YouTube has unsubscribed you, and this happens a lot, if they've unsubscribed you and then you have to resubscribe, then yeah, you have to wait 4 weeks before you can comment again. Is this a harassment technique that YouTube uses? Undoubtedly, it absolutely is. Is for the purposes of harassing people. But the real purpose of it, and I want you to learn this, Corinne, because you're 12 years old now, but you're fairly articulate, so that's a good sign for the future. So within the next, you're 12 years old now, by the time you're 16, so within the next 4 years, you could very well be doing your own broadcasting yourself. So understand what the reason for unsubscribing people is. The reason for unsubscribing them is YouTube is hoping that those people will be casual viewers and will just simply move on and will consider it to be too much of a hassle or too much of a problem to subscribe or to click the button again. That's the reason for it. Now, I want folks to be very, very clear. I don't take notice of the 150,000 number because I think that that is a measure of my audience. That's not the reason for it. The reason for keeping track of the 150,000 number is because that gives me one dimension of a metric to put overall. I add up everything. I don't just add up subscriber numbers. More important than subscriber numbers is engagement. And I don't just mean overall video views. I mean when I'm live, when it's recorded, when I'm impromptu, Amazon. I add up everything. So I don't look at just one thing. If it were just a one-dimensional thing, then I'd be like Roland Martin and just screaming and yelling about subscriber counts. So I don't want you to be deceived either, because one day you may wind up doing this yourself. As a matter of fact, the number one career of teenagers today is wanting to be YouTube or Instagram. So God help us. But if you ever want to do that kind of thing, I want you to understand where the real numbers are that you'd be looking at. If these people target you, what they're hoping is they can demoralize your audience. They're hoping that by unsubscribing them, that this, your programs won't show up on their homepage. It won't be recommended, or more importantly, they're hoping that you will just forget about them, because that's what happens in a lot of cases. If you're not still subscribed to these channels and it doesn't notify you, you just forget they were there, and then you just move on to something else and forget about it. That's the psychological warfare that they're playing. And it's very, very dangerous and very, very deadly, especially for someone like you. Now, you live in Houston. You can ask your dad this if you need to. Which ward are you in?
Oh, he's listening.
Ask him which ward are you in.
Which ward?
War?
I don't know. Which ward?
Oh, we're not in any ward.
Okay.
Oh, he said we're not in any ward.
Okay, I thought you said you were in Houston. They might be outside of Houston then.
Yeah, we northwest.
Northwest.
Okay, they're new there. All right. This is important to understand because Houston just had an election, and Houston has introduced an old white Democrat back as the mayor. This guy is basically 8/10 of a Republican. So he is essentially a distinction without a difference, as Professor Black Truth would say. And he's going to be he's been in politics now for 40 or 50 years, and that's going to be your mayor for at least the next 4 years. This is important because you're 12 years old, but now you're coming of age in Houston. Whereas before now, the circumstances of the city were very highly in your favor, and in a lot of ways they still are. Houston is one of those favorite places for black folk to go, particularly young black people when they leave high school. I'm from Louisiana, so when our kids grow up here, they go to Dallas, Houston, or Atlanta, one of the three. Well, that's the kind of thing we want to preserve for you, because we want you to have all the advantages you can have as you're getting older. But if you don't know who those folks are, just to be aware, gentrification is a word that didn't even used to exist in Houston. Now it does. The idea that people coming from outside of Houston are going to be paying 3 or 4 times for houses what you all do. Now, that might not matter to you at 12 years old, but when you get grown and want to move out on your own, it's going to matter. It's going to matter a lot. If no one's talking about this kind of thing, then that's important. And if we're not talking about this as a national issue so that you and your generation can all connect the dots and see that, oh, this isn't accidental, this is engineered what's happening to us, then you'll be walking around getting knocked on your ears and not understanding why. Just thinking that maybe you're not working hard enough, or maybe you're not doing enough, or maybe you're not trying hard enough. When in reality, oh no, this is all part of the plan. Well before you were even born. So I want you to be aware that if anything else which you're getting from us, and I thank you very much for being a listener, anything else you're getting from our program, I want you to understand about the future for yourself, Corinne. It is more important about you understanding the future for yourself, because me and your dad are just a couple of old men sitting around talking about things. I'm much more concerned about what your future is going to be. Much more. What will your opportunities and avenues be when you're 21 years old? What will it be like then? What will the landscape be like then? What will the housing prices, the employment market, your ability to save money, what will it be like then? Will you have a black community to work in and work within? Because as Malcolm X said, that's where you will be, because other folks ain't gonna let you in. So what will it be then? So I'm trying to look out for where things are going to be for you in the next 10 years, not the last 10 and not even the next 2 or 3. I'm more concerned about where you'll be in 10 years. So if you want to know what the unsubscribing and whatnot is really about, it is so that young people like you, which is where the focus of my program really is, younger people like yourself who've grown up hearing these things, when it starts happening to you, you're not going to be shocked and dazed and surprised and confused about why it's happening. You're already aware of what's going on, and you've probably already taken steps to mitigate what they've done. since you're not waiting to be subscribed, since you're actually looking for us and looking to hear what we have to say, that's the most powerful thing you can have. That is community. Does that make sense?
Yep. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned the future because I do have some plans. I wanted to find a good college that would give me a good real estate degree, so I can start a company called Black Wall Street. It's going to be it's just like, what do you call it? Yeah, a real estate. And I'll be selling houses to black people for cheap.
Well, first of all,
towards getting more black neighborhoods.
First of all, now, let me give you a couple of hints here. If you're going to go into business, first of all, you're saying too much. Remember, you're being heard internationally right now. So if you have a business idea, you don't want to broadcast it to other people because despite your good intentions, and I'm sure that your intentions are completely pure, you're not old enough yet to have bad intentions, which is great. But by the way, you're going to lose your competitive advantage if you broadcast to the world what your idea is. So when you say you want to go into real estate, that's all you have to say right there. Now, I will give you a couple of pointers, however. If you are going to go into business, please remember you cannot go into business with an ethnic intent. You can't do that. That's not the way business works. That's not the way enterprise works. It seems to work that way for white people, but that's only because for the last century and a half, they've been the majority of the population. So you see, it worked. You can certainly operate that way when 75% of the population, or in their case, 90% of the population going down, was them. But for us, as only 14% of the population, that doesn't work. And then when you consider not only are we only 14% of the population, we're half of 1% of the money in America. You can't operate that way and focus your aim on just 1/2 of 1% of the economy. That's not a strategy for success. So I understand what your intent is. You need to understand this part. If you want to serve black people best, then you need to be the best real estate agent you can possibly be, not the best black one. Johnny Cochran was not the best black attorney. He was the best attorney, period, hands down. He just happened to be black also. And that's what we need. Michael Jordan was not the best black basketball player. He was the greatest ever. He happened to be black. That's how you win. So I understand what your intent is. And I'm not saying that that's not an admirable goal, but that cannot be your business strategy because the numbers and the math are against that. And that's really the number one reason that most black businesses would not succeed, because if they thought of themselves as having to compete against the rest of the world first, they wouldn't be undercapitalized when they go in. They would go in with a lot more money because they realize they're going to need to be a lot more formidable. If you want to be a successful real estate agent, understand that as a young black woman, and that's what you're going to be, you will have the odds stacked against you, which means that you are going to have to be as friendly as you can with everyone you can be. Black, white, Asian, Arab, Latino, you will have to be friendly with everybody. Everyone across the board. You're going to have to be the most popular person in the room. You cannot afford to be a person that people see as an enemy or adversarial. They will already be hostile toward you. If they see you as adversarial, they're going to start shutting up when you come around. And that's not what you can afford to have happen. So you can know what your intent is, but your intent cannot be your business strategy. Does that make sense?
Sure does. Thank you for the advice, too.
What you are to do is you can think black all day long, but you must act as a business person. And business people do not operate along racial agendas. They follow the money. Otherwise, there will be no business to conduct, and you will be the blackest out of business person in real estate. All right, now let's deal with this real estate issue that you mentioned there. Now, I have a number of friends who are real estate agents. That's perfectly fine, that's perfectly great, and that's perfectly wonderful. However, there is a difference between being a real estate agent / broker versus being a real estate developer. Now, there's a difference between those two things. They are not the same. You can go to school for real estate, but there isn't really a school for, quote, real estate development. One of these days, I'm going to have to do a program that explains those things, like the difference between a trust and a corporation. That one is an actual financial entity and one is just an agreement that seems to act like an entity, but in reality, it's not. But when it comes to real estate development and real estate agent / broker, one is a person, the other is just a name for an enterprise. And that's all. No degree required, no big schooling necessary. That's not the way it works. So I'm not sure which one you actually mean, but if you mean that you wish to buy and sell properties and you wish to be the person who brings a willing buyer together with a willing seller, that's one thing. If you mean that you wish to be the person who owns these properties and facilitates transfer, that's going to be something different. Now, there are brokers who do development. There sure are. But once again, please keep in mind, these are two separate ventures you'll be going into. So you're 12 years old, but if you can say the word real estate, you need to know the difference between brokering, agent versus development. You're not too old for that. As a matter of fact, you're just in time. So you're going to have to decide which of those you really want to do, because you're going to have to go all in on whichever one it is. Now, there is a problem with the goal that you just mentioned. Our goal should not be to provide black people with cheap housing. That's a non-starter. The reason that it's a non-starter is because people don't aspire to that. That's the problem. The other problem is the people that you would provide it to generally cannot afford to upkeep it. That's the other issue. Your intentions are pure. But remember, you don't speak for the people who'd be talking to you or dealing with you. You have to keep that into mind, that your good intentions won't control their reactions. So if you're going to go into real estate, your job is to provide a fair deal. Now, if you're dealing with black people, your job is to make sure that they're not getting messed over, that they're not being lied to, that they're not being put at a disadvantage, that they're not being deceived, because that's what usually happens to black folk when they're just trying to buy real estate. So the real issue isn't them being able to qualify for it. The real issue actually isn't that the housing is not cheap enough, although in America right now that we don't have cheap housing anymore. But the problem isn't that the housing isn't low cost enough. The problem is when black folks show up, there's usually somebody on the other side of the table who's straight out lying to us. The banks are lying about the terms of the loan. They're lying about what we really qualify for. They're giving the white folks better terms than they're giving us all the time. They tell the white folks, they actually give the white folks a lower price than they give us. Did you know that, Kareem?
No.
They actually give the white folks a lower price. You and your dad can Google that. If y'all been listening to me, though, you probably already seen me cover that before. Wells Fargo just got caught in a damn scandal. And this is just the umpteenth scandal from the umpteenth bank of doing this, where they're giving black folks different numbers than they're giving the white folk. Black people and white folk with the same credit profiles, same neighborhoods, and they're in the year 2023, it's now 2024, but in 2023, giving them different numbers, giving them different interest rates, giving them different terms. So when you think about that for a few moments there, that matters. That matters a lot. I want you all to keep that in mind. I want you to keep that in mind going forward. That if nobody has mentioned that to you there before, that matters. That matters. In the chat room, you're correct. That's Navy Federal. So even your credit unions are not doing well about that. Even they're not doing well about that. Was that something you were aware of?
No, not until you told me.
Okay. That's important to keep in mind. That's important to keep in mind. By the way, for those of you who might be wondering there, I meant what I said. It is not just Navy Federal. I meant what I said about Wells Fargo. So if anybody here would like to actually do their Google searching, folks, we'll be here naming banks all day. So for anybody who was not completely informed, if your knowledge only stopped at Navy Federal, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But by the way, you might want to Google a little bit more, a little bit longer. It's not confined to one institution. It's not confined to one bank. It's not confined to one place. It's not confined to 1 year. This is life in America for us. And those are just the big institutions we can take it. This happens at the smaller institutions all over the place, by the way. So the real irony of it is you would be chasing the goal of, well, if I can just get these numbers down for black folk lower, they'd be able to, in the chat room, Bank of America, don't even get me started on them. If I can just get the numbers of these houses down for black folk, they'd be better off. Meanwhile, in reality, the banks are giving the white folks lower numbers than the ones that you think are not low enough for black folk. They're giving the white folks, or the number you think would be low enough for black folk, they're giving the white folks lower numbers. That's what they're doing now. And if you don't file a lawsuit or get the government to step in, and they usually don't, then you never even find out that's what's happening. Well, here's the real problem. The real problem is, yeah, we know what's happening, but the reason why it continues occurring is because no one's going to get arrested. None of these banks are going to get shut down for engaging in these illegal practices. That's the problem. So this is a problem that will be here and will continue to be here. What we can do is not have a situation like these black couples who keep showing up on TV and if they want to sell a house, they got to take down all their family's pictures and put up pictures of white folk, because otherwise the homes don't get appraised properly. If they find out a black family owns the home, they want to give you half the price that they would if a white family owned the home. So it's not just about us buying homes. It's also about us selling our homes too. We catch it coming and going. So just understand, it's not one dimensional. It is in every dimension you can imagine. Your race affects everything and puts you at a financial disadvantage in everything. The most powerful thing Corinne could do is become someone who makes sure that her people are being given accurate information and make sure that it is simple to understand. Avoid jargon. Avoid long explanations. I'm giving you a long explanation because you can go back and go re-listen to this. People you talk to in person, give them the 3rd grade version of it. Make it very simple for them to understand. They don't work in real estate, you will. You make it simple for them to understand just the bottom line of what they need. Hey, you're being redlined. Hey, this is not what the interest rate is supposed to be. Hey, you need another appraisal. That's what you give them. And then you can give them the in-depth details later. If you really want to be a help to your people, that's what you do. But most importantly, if you want to help us, be successful. And being successful means that you sell the best homes at the best price to the best buyers every single day you can. A prosperous real estate agent / broker / developer, Corinne, that's the most important, powerful thing that she could bring to us. Because now you can bring us resources, something we currently don't have, or at least we don't have nearly enough as we need. Now, if I can get you to focus on that for the next 6 years, my goodness, it'll be scary to think about what you'll be at 18. And don't think you're too young either. You are not.
Well, thank you for the advice. I definitely will keep that in mind. We over here taking notes. mental notes. I don't have no paper with me right now. But thank you so much, and congratulations for the 150,000. Yeah, I see it, Dad. I see it.
Well, I want to thank
definitely
you for tuning in.
Listening to you again.
Well, I thank you for tuning in. That's very, very important for me to have. I've done all of this for you and yours. I don't have any biological children of my own. I've had plenty of offers, but I don't have any biological children of my own. So I've tried my best to make a better world for those of you, for men like your father who do. I think that's the best contribution that I can make. Whether that changes for me in the future, who knows? Let me not say that because then I'll get a bunch of emails. But I certainly hope I've made the environment better for you. And so that you will have an easier road than we did. Not that you won't have any complications or difficulties. You need difficulties. Difficulties make you a stronger person. But you certainly don't need to have unnecessary ones. Now that you don't need. And we don't need people throwing unnecessary obstacles in your way. Things that other folks engineered to happen to you, not because it was natural, but specifically because, well, why should she go anywhere? You should be able to go anywhere you wish to as long as you've earned it. So that's very, very important. What I would like for you to do, I would like for you to keep tuning into the program, that's for certain. I would also like for you to check back in with me. As you get older, you're going to see a lot of people in a lot of places, and probably the worst place you can go for real estate advice is YouTube. That is probably the worst place you can see. YouTube is absolutely overrun with fraudsters, scammers, pseudo scammers, individuals who don't actually deal in real estate. They just make YouTube channels talking about real estate to sell courses, but they don't have a damn thing to legitimately do with real estate. And that is the worst place that a young person trying to get legitimate, actionable information can be. Absolute worst place you can be. So I recommend you keep tuning into us and stay stationed with us here so you can keep your head on straight. But I would also like you to keep in touch with me here, certainly as time goes on, because actually I do know somebody. I know somebody who she is in real estate in Houston. I actually know somebody who is in real estate in Houston. I actually do. I actually know somebody in Houston who is actually in real estate herself. Here's what I want you to do. Now, this will be up to you. Some folks will not like what I'm about to do here, but I'm doing this for a purpose and for a reason. Because I am giving you your first lesson in business. If you do not have the desire, you will not have the results. I want you to call me back in 1 year when you are 13 years old. You will call me back in the first week of 2025. And you are 13 years old. All you will have to say is, Jason, I'm Corinne from Houston. I was 12 years old and I wanted to get into real estate. And you said you knew somebody in real estate for me to talk to. And I will make that happen. If you still want it in a year, if you're still sure that that's what you want, then I'll make that happen.
Thank you. I've wanted it for this long since I was, in fourth, third grade? So
then we'll see if you still want it in eighth grade. So if you want it this long, we'll see if you still do. And if you do, then we'll take you to the next step. Now, by the way, one more thing. I'm a very huge stickler about this kind of thing because once again, the internet is where you have a large repository of outrageously unreliable people at best and fraudulent people at worst. So I want you to call me back publicly. This program's not going anywhere. I want the only people out there anywhere that you will find who says, call me back publicly. Because if I'm going to say this publicly in the first week, everybody already knows I can do this. So I just want everybody to understand this is the standard. The standard will never change, period, point blank, in discussion. Call me back in a year publicly, and I will make that happen publicly. Hell, I'll try to make it happen while you're on the phone if I can. I can't guarantee it. But my whole thing is this is the first time I've heard from you. So if you still call me back in a year, I will assume you are still serious. And at that point, I'll take care of the rest. I'll let you have the last word.
Okay. Thank you.
We have our moments. My apologies about the pimp wisecrack. Jason, he's inappropriate. Thank you very much, young lady. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for the advice, for everything. Wow. And congratulations for your subscribers.
Well, thank you very much, young lady, because I know it's a cliche, but you are the future, whether you realize it or not. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Well, I certainly hope to hear back from her, and if she is that serious, then I will show her how serious we are. Now, did you know this? I didn't say how serious I am. I said how serious we are. Because if she calls back, she's not going to be talking to me. I mean, she'll talk to me for a minute, but she's going to be talking to some of the rest of you. And that's important to have too. Over the last 15 years, you want to know what YouTube was trying to stop for the last 15 years? These diabolical white supremacist bastards. Do you want to know what they were trying to stop? They were trying to stop that phone call right there. Because you see, YouTube has set up scammers like Logan Paul, Stephen Graham, whatever, and the rest of them. Grant Cardone. Yeah, YouTube has become an incubator for enriching white people, whether they are legitimate or whether they're wholesale scammers and frauds. They're an engine for enriching white people. They want to make sure that legitimate black folk can't even give each other a business card. That's how screwed down and how tightly pressed they have this thing. They want to make sure that we don't even have the ability to give each other a legitimate referral to somebody legit, not some liar or scammer, somebody legit. They want to make sure that can't even happen. That's just how tightly they've tried to lock this thing down to make sure that won't, something as simple as the phone call you just heard, that can't even occur. You never heard that on Bowling Ball Martin or anywhere else over there. So I want you all to understand what the real fight and the real battle is to make sure that something that just seems as mundane as that call I just had, to make sure that never happens. You don't know who the hell you're dealing with. She's 12 years old. You don't know her drive. You don't know her ambition. You don't know how she's being taught. You don't know what she's up against. You don't know the knocks and the bumps and the bruises she's going to take. You don't know the perseverance she's going to have. You don't know what you're dealing with. She may turn out here in 6 years and become the anti-Oprah. She could be the female Johnny Cochran. You don't know what you're dealing with. And their goal is to make sure they never have to worry what they're going to deal with. That she's going to be cut off before she even gets the chance to think about getting there. So make sure they don't know nothing. Cut off the subs, unsubscribe them, shut down the channels, hide the videos. Do whatever you got to do. This is survival of white privilege at stake. The survival of white privilege is at stake. Not going to have your kids trying to compete with theirs. It's supposed to be given to their kids. They're not supposed to be competing against yours. Y'all can say she's hungry, she's a go-getter, she's trying to get it. But we ain't trying to have that. Mark Zuckerberg was not a go-getter. Mark Zuckerberg was a ruthless scammer. That's why he got sued by everybody he went into business with. The people he went into business with all wound up having to sue him. That doesn't happen when you legit. When you're legit, all your business partners don't end up having to sue you. Oh yeah, they sued you and they got paid. One more thing, not only did they sued you and they got paid. Now, if you were legit, how is it that all your partners wound up suing you and then they got paid? If you were legit. If you did everything right and you weren't scamming nobody and you didn't mess anybody over, how the hell is it that they sued you and they won? They sued you and they got paid, but you legit? The hell out of here. Caller from area code 917. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, God, this is John from Brooklyn.
All right, John from Brooklyn. What's on your mind?
I can't follow that up. I can't follow that up. I was hoping that you take the next caller first because that beautiful voice of the young 12-year-old, she reminds me of my 20-year-old daughter. And I'd like to give a shout out because I've been trying to convince my daughter to listen to you. She's having a hard time processing the situation because, her mom got her ear. You know what I mean? But it's a beautiful thing that a dad got his 12-year-old daughter to pay attention to Mr. Black. You know what I'm saying? That's a beautiful thing right there. And I just had to just say that. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you. I got other things to say, but you got other callers coming in, So thank you, Mr. Black. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much for tuning in here tonight. This is why I do what I do. Drag yourself out of bed, folks. You never know who's listening in. You never know who's listening in. I treat every program like it's the first one. I don't know who's watching. I don't know who's listening. I treat every program like it's the first one. Every program. Because it is the first one for somebody. And I try to do my program in a way that a fifth grader could understand. A third grader could understand. Which is why I've been trying to lighten up the language in 2023 and 2024. I've been trying to ease back on that. It's hard as hell for me, but I've been trying to ease back on the language, a bit there because I want it to be, I don't want to cloud the message too much as far as I can. So I'm trying to be a little bit more expansive in that regard, but I'm very cognizant that a lot of you have turned your children over. I try to be cognizant of that. So at the very least, hopefully I'm not the too salty uncle, but at least hopefully I'm the uncle who's useful. If a little salty, hopefully I'm the uncle who's useful. Caller from area code 412, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Jason. My name is Robert. I'm calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I just was so impacted emotionally by that young woman as she called in and tried to get information from you. That reminded me of a song by Gil Scott-Heron, Save the Children. I don't know whether you heard that before. I have always explained that how you are so important to us. Jason, you are blessed to have an uncompromising, dedicated spirit. You are championing universal reciprocity. What I like to say about as far as I don't know what's the matter with you, but we have to strengthen each other. Vitamins. I'm in a health field, and what I found out works is vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C, and magnesium sulfate. You take that as they're prescribed, their supplements, and that would help you. Yes, we should be completely aware of gentrification. Yes, we should also seek reparations and reclamation of what was stolen. Selective buying, group economics are the key, and loving each other. Sisters and brothers, don't let media coerce you to dilute your seeds with the colonizers by allowing them to weaken you or weaken us. We should send each other programs of this video that you just put out to at least 3 people, and have those 3 people send to 3 people. What we're trying to do is have a video tsunami of this valuable information. Jason, 150,000 is probably less than what you probably really have in reality, but because of machinations by the supremacists is diluting that. But keep up the good work.
That, as I say, that doesn't really bother me, though, to be totally honest. I mean, in some ways, I guess symbolically it's a little annoying. But let me tell you, I would much rather have 50,000 rock rib, dedicated, fully committed, 100% invested individuals than to have 50 million casual fans who are entertained and coming here to be distracted for a little while. And I mean that from the bottom of my soul. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, Robert. Folks, it really doesn't bother me that much, to be totally honest with you. Is it symbolically annoying? Well, sure it is. Give me my damn props. Never got my play button and not looking for it. I'm like, if they did send me the play button, I'd be like, okay, what y'all up to? Let me tell you, I would rather have 50,000 people who I can count on to walk through the fires of hell. I would rather have that than to have 50 million twerking idiots sitting up here tuning in because I said something funny one weekend. And I mean that. And I mean that. Once again here, let me take a moment here to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program. Mr. Richburg, B1 Media is a lifesaver. My man Jerome, Mr. Tahuti. Thank you very much for your support here tonight. We appreciate that as always. Thank you very much. Let me get caller from area code 908. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Omar from Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay, Omar from where?
Trenton, New Jersey.
All right, Trenton, New Jersey. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I gotta admit that, Jason, you really are striking it when you said that they tried to create these mid cities. I've called your program many times, and I told you about the time I've been in Salt Lake City. Well, I used to be a driver. I used to drive a road. Well, every August they have their Latter-day Saint conference, where every Latter-day Saint comes to Salt Lake to go to the conference for like 3 days straight for a weekend. That population of that city goes from probably anywhere from 200,000 to maybe 800,000 to 1 million.
People don't know. Let me be very, very clear. I got to interject here. As a person who has driven straight up through there, if you're not as a black person, if you ain't really a truck driver or you got some folk in your family with an unusual religious bent, they don't go to Salt Lake City. They don't go out. They don't go to Utah. There's a reason them folk moved from New York and whatever, went all the way out there. They don't go out there and they don't know anything about it. I know what it's like to see that thing on the freeway coming into view. It's this city in the middle of nothing. It's a city in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's amazing to look at, but it's in the middle of nowhere. However, the closer you get, the more money you see. The closer you get, the more you see, oh, the money is here. Whether you think it's there, whether anybody else recognizes it, the money is there. And what that puts into perspective here is these folks get it. They've always gotten it. These other people, even though they were white, who come from oppressed backgrounds because of their religions and whatnot, when you're talking about the Mormons, when you're talking about the Jews, when you're talking about these white folk who've been oppressed for their religions, you notice something about those folk. When you talk about folks like Harry Reid and Mitt Romney and his father, George Romney, you notice another thing we say, they all come from well-to-do families. When you talk about the Scientologists, same thing. Now, isn't that amazing? When white folks make a religion and folks start beaming down on them and beating down on them, the first thing they do is start getting their money together. Now that's how they respond to that. Is put the bull crap to the side, start stacking them dollars. That's their automatic reflexive response in this environment. And I wanted to interject there. I'm going to let you finish your thought, but you raised such an excellent point there. And I wanted to let everybody know that, by the way, let me go ahead and remind you all, everybody wants to talk about Jewish people, but I'm like, man, it's not a Jewish thing. It's a white thing. You are very myopic and blind if you don't understand. You need to see the whole damn scope of this. When they get religiously oppressed, because we can name more than one. We can name more than one. When we talk about Jews and Seventh-day Adventists, Mormons, Scientologists, Transcendental Meditationists, we can go down the list. Buddhists, for the white folk who want to get into that. You notice that on the one hand, they're talking their religion, but on the other hand, when they get together in a group, they pass in the hat. The dollars are getting aggregated. The Church of Scientology owns billions of dollars in investment. Billions. The Catholic Church, same thing. We can go down the list. When them folks show up, their whole thing is, by the way, get the money solidified. And that's how you can have a place like Salt Lake City. I'm talking about because I drove through Green River. When you're coming up through Texas. For those of you who never made that drive to go up through Texas, heading out towards Colorado, heading up toward the Northeast. If you never made that drive before, I've made it a couple of times. I don't want to do it again, but life is going to probably take me up there sooner or later. All right, fine. When you go through there, when you make that trip through Utah, and you see that thing coming into view on the freeway, and it's getting bigger and bigger, because in the distance it looks real small. I mean, it's not gigantic expansive, but as you get closer, it's like, wow, they have built a you talk about Dubai. These folks have built a modern, up-to-date, modern city out there in the middle of nowhere. They really have. And I want you all to understand what's fueling that and what's motivating that. So, brother, please go ahead and finish your thought there. But I really wanted to go ahead and get that in there because you raised such a good point. I really wanted to go ahead and comment on that.
Well, what I was trying to raise was I would go to Salt Lake City, downtown Salt Lake City, and it was so packed, Jason, during their conference. It was like Manhattan on a Friday night on a summertime. But for some odd reason, when I go to my hotel, we get where we got to get to like so quick. And I'm like, wow, all these people running around here, we get to our hotel like that. And then it hit me. They've already engineered this place to be able to hold 1 million to 2 million population of people. They already put the underpinnings for it. Because for it to get that many people to land into your city overnight, and for us to be able to go through traffic with no traffic jam, no stall, no nothing, how the lights and everything were put together, oh yes, they've already created to be a metropolitan area. What I'm trying to say here is this was already preordained. They're expecting so many cities, especially on those mountain states. Oh yeah, Denver, all them areas, they're expecting them to be the next metropolis. Because you can only do so much with so many other cities. You're talking about these immigrants. Shoot, they got places to put them. They're already shipping up to Denver. I was surprised when they did that. Like, they put them in Denver now? That makes sense because I've been to Denver many times. They got the room. They got plenty of room over there from Colorado Springs on up. They got the room. So I knew then the underpinnings were already there.
Everyone talks about now, like Denver has been booming now for 20 years. It's not a place that gets a lot of shine in that regard, but folks who know about Denver, that place has been popping for 20 years. It's been impervious. It was one of the only cities in America that was impervious to the housing crash of 2008. That was basically a non-event for Denver, not New York, not LA, but for Denver, Colorado, it was basically a non-event. But you raise a very good point. Everyone talked about Denver. They don't say very much about Boulder, and they don't say anything at all about Colorado Springs. But the folks who live there know. So when you talk about Denver, that's just one part of the equation. You haven't mentioned Colorado Springs. You haven't mentioned Vail. You haven't mentioned Aspen. You haven't mentioned Boulder. There's a whole trifecta of places around there and whatnot that are having investment. Now, we've always thought about Vail and Aspen as vacation spots, but that's only if you want to ski or snow. If you find one place, everybody's always trying to figure out where's the next place that won't cost me as much, where I can get the same thing, but there's fewer people that won't cost me as much. What you just named, Colorado Springs, there you go. Hey, would you like to be in Denver, but without the congestion and everything else? So yeah, we're going to retreat to Colorado Springs, and there you go. When that gets finished being filled out, you're going to see another one pop up after that. But yes, it's about building these mid-sized cities now and creating them. So the place that you think is a entry-level city now, that's going to be the mid-sized city of tomorrow, which is in fact going to be your pseudo big city, because it'll be a mid-sized city, but with all the big city prices. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get a caller from area code 951. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm Ricky 12.
Okay, Ricky 12. And what is on your mind?
Yeah, you told me to call in.
Yes, sir. Then you already know why you were told to call in, sir.
Yeah. So, Memphis. I'm a truck driver. I live in Norco, California. I'm an hour from LA, and I'm 3 hours from Vegas. But I go to Memphis a lot, and the city got potential, but the leadership there is not doing the job because they got a lot of poverty there, and it's a lot of crime in Memphis. But they got potential. They got FedEx. They got a big hub there. They got potential. They could be like Atlanta or Houston. But they didn't even elect Judge Joe Brown. He ran for mayor, and he would have been a good mayor. They put somebody else in. So I like Memphis, but I don't think the leadership there are doing a good job. That's what I put in the chat.
No, sir, that is not what you put in the chat room, actually. That is not what you said.
Yeah, I said I put that they have a lot of poverty and crime there, but
thank you, sir. No, thank you, sir. That's what you said. That was what you said.
Yeah.
No. You didn't say all the rest of that. That last part you just said there, that's all you put in the chat room, sir.
Oh, okay. I should have went more in depth into it, but
okay, here's the problem. You shouldn't have said that. You should not have said that.
Well,
you know why?
Well,
sir, you should not have said that. You know why? Because I've traveled all over this country. I've traveled to the Midwest. I have traveled through the Northeast. I've traveled through the Pacific Northwest. I have been all over this country. And do you know something that white folk will not let you do? White folk will not let us put up a platform to tell them about how methed out and cracked out Maine and New Hampshire are. Now, I'm not telling you what somebody told me. I'm telling you what I saw in Connecticut. I'm telling you what I've seen in New Hampshire. I'm telling you what I've seen in Maine and Massachusetts. Young white kids, stoned out, cracked out, methed out, opioid out, walking up and down the streets. It was as scary as any place you've been on the south side of Chicago or south side of Memphis. It was as scary as for me, anywhere as you can be there. And I got a Kit Kat with me. I'm up there in Oregon, stopping at a gas station, and I'm watching the sun go down. It's like 30 days of night. I'm watching these white folk driving by me with these looks, and I'm like, okay, everybody's looking cracked out through here. And I'm like, let me hurry up and fill up this I never in my life wished I had a 5-gallon tank. I'm like, why did I buy a machine with a 25-gallon tank? It's going to take this thing forever to fill up. I got the front door to my truck open just in case I got to go jump for a candy bar right quick. Now, I'm not a scary person, and I've been raised around all ethnicities my whole life. And yet I was ill at ease in that environment because I can see when I'm dealing with folks who it can go down. So this idea that where we are, it's like this, that, there, and the other, and what these other folks are, it's not like that. Let me be very, very clear. What you actually already had debunked that in what you said. That's FedEx's hub. You're right. And if Memphis was not a place to be, FedEx would not be expanding their hub there. If Chicago was not a place to be, then UPS would not be doing their hub there. You don't do that in places that are not the place to be. And just like FedEx put a hub there, FedEx can move it, but they're not doing that. So what I'm saying is that, let me find out here, how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay. You're a bit young, so you don't know anything about New York City. Back in the late 60s, going into the 70s, New York City as a whole, when you take a look at things like Batman, Daredevil, movies or comic books and TV shows talking about that was New York City in the 70s. When you watch, if y'all ever saw the movie Watchmen or whatever, that was New York City in the 70s. Shaft, the police are corrupt all over the damn place. Porno shops, pimps and hookers, whole 9 yards. That was allowed, not just, that was not natural. That was allowed to happen. Allowed. For the purposes of running the real estate values down. That's not something you can do in a couple of years. That's something that's going to take decades. And they put it into place to run the real estate. Slow down.
That movie.
Slow down. There's a number of different movies. I'm talking, it's just a genre. Whenever you see a film talking about some big megalopolis and it's all dirty and seedy and there's pimps and hookers and things, that was New York City in the 70s. There's a reason why I'm bringing it up. That was allowed to happen and really engineered to happen for the purposes of getting certain people up off of huge tracts of land. Take a look at where all of this multi-billion-dollar development is in New York City today. It's sitting right on top of the land that they ran the other folks out of. Take a look at where Columbia University is expanding today, where they ran the folks out of. Take a look at Brooklyn. I just showed y'all about that. Take a look today. It's where they ran people up out of. The BQE, the Brooklyn Queens Expressway, the Long Island Expressway. We can go down the list. When y'all go to them places, you're starting to see tower cranes going up. It's not accident. Tribeca, people. Hell's Kitchen, which is now Chelsea. For those of you who don't live in New York City, I'm naming places and whatnot. My folks in New York know what it is. Soho, South Houston. My folks in New York City know everything I'm saying because when you watch the Jeffersons, they always talk about the Lower East Side. But my folks in New York City who are younger today than the Jeffersons generation, they've got a new list of abbreviations and things that they've learned since then. And those were things that were engineered, just like the migrants coming to New York today. They were engineered and allowed to happen for the purposes of seemingly naturally creating these circumstances that are going to have an adverse effect on a certain segment of the population to get you the hell out of there without causing the most dangerous thing of all. And this is what I need you to understand. The purpose is to influence your behavior without creating the most dangerous thing of all, civil unrest. Now, it doesn't matter what the same things stuff you talking about Memphis, you can say the same thing about St. Louis. And yet, when they killed Mike Brown, you saw a city stand up in unison against that. Those are not your choir boys who showed up in them streets, is what I'm trying to tell you. Those are not your clergy, and those are not your IT specialists who showed up on the streets in Ferguson and St. Louis, or in Atlanta, or in New York. That wasn't them who showed up. That was the gangsters. That was the hardheads. That was them who were out there leading that. Let's never forget that. There was the street cats. But then again, it's always been that way. You take a look at the Black Panthers, the Nation of Islam, we can go down the list. So I never discount the value of that. I never do that. I never do that. And when it comes to the case of a Memphis, understand that's being engineered because you go to Memphis and they sit up here and yell at you all damn day about Elvis Presley. They sit up there and yell about that. The whole point of it is they already know what parts they want. The real problem is black folk own things. So what they need to do is run the value down as much as they can. Well, Jason, what would be the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is what you got going on in New York City right now. Okay, we'll wait 30 years. Ooh, that sounds like a long damn time. Yeah, most of you who had a lot of fighting you will hopefully be gone, and hopefully your children will either not be here anymore because we made the environment so hostile to them that they couldn't afford to live here and they had to leave, and thus you'll have property, but you'll all have to give it up. So if we can prevent you from rising up in the streets, which gives us an immediate problem, and if all we got to do is wait 30 years and then you'll all leave, either because you can't afford it or your kids had to leave, then we can come pick up your land. Eventually, you'll have to give it to us. And then you end up with, like you have in New York, the brownstones up there in New York. In Harlem, you got whole neighborhoods of brownstones that black folk for decades were bragging about, and now the grandchildren aren't selling it. Hell, in a lot of cases, the parents are selling it. Now the grandkids are selling it because they couldn't afford to live in New York anymore, and they live in the Carolinas or they live in Georgia, and they can't afford to try to maintain a brownstone in New York, no matter how historically valuable. It's like, hey, I live in Georgia. I can't afford to do this. So guess what? So 40 years after they bombed the place out in the 70s, ran the place down, the pimps and hookers burning down houses, landlords taking doors off of houses, and 40 years later, now the place is the most expensive real estate in America, only now you can't afford to be there. Now, nobody, when they were selling brownstones for pennies on the dollar back in the 70s, nobody predicted that this was going to be the result. No one. No one except the people who engineered it. Now they did. Now here we are now, 40 years later, and I'll be damned. Well, what do you know? This stuff is valuable. It was always valuable. The goal was to run you and your kids off. Because even if you bought the brownstones for pennies on the dollar, you won't be able to keep them. Because the guys who are going to come in after you will not be spending thousands. They will be spending billions. Not thousands.
So all
billions.
the crime in Memphis is engineered to run you all out of there so they'll get the land. That's what they want to do.
This is what you see happening. You've seen it happen in New York. You've seen it happen in Los Angeles. You've seen it happen in San Francisco. You've seen it happen in Miami, New Jersey. This isn't even brain power anymore. This is a template that is being used. I called my second film Gentrified Ethnic Cleansing American Style. This is a template that is being used everywhere because its goal is to make sure that you can ethnically cleanse these areas without creating civil unrest in the streets. Because when you do something radical, it's a shock to the system. People are going to stand up and pick up their pitchforks and fight you. How do we cleanse these people and move them out without them taking to the streets and fighting us? Well, you can't do that in 30 days. Okay, but you could do it in 30 years. Well, that's a long time frame. Well, we ain't got nothing better to do. What about population sizes? Our population size may go down. Our population size is going to go down no matter what occurs. The real question is, will our economic control go down? Oh, it won't? Fine, so be it.
So any real estate in any of these cities is valuable, so nobody should sell their real estate. A lot of people have been selling their real estate. Like in L.A., I got family in L.A., and they sold their real estate and moved to the Inland Empire like years ago. And they screwed up because they could have gotten way more money for it right now.
Need I say more?
So...
yeah, there's a whole bunch of places where black folks sit there and stuff. These people do these machinations. They destroy the value of the neighborhood and everything else. The black folk are like, oh, I can't take this no more. And they leave out. And then as soon as you leave, all of a sudden, here comes all this investment. Case in point, take a look at Chicago. So the city has been telling us now for the last 40 damn years about what they can't do. As soon as a bunch of illegals show up, $50 million in investment shows up. New York City, we can't do nothing for black folk. $3 billion of funding shows up literally overnight for a bunch of non-citizens. Brother, are you sure the situation in Memphis isn't engineered? Are you sure?
Yeah, it's probably engineered. Most likely it's engineered, but they didn't vote for Judge Joe Brown, so I was like, what's going on with Memphis? Because he ran, and I saw his posters everywhere when I was there. But a lot of the cranes are going up in Nashville. I noticed on I-40. If you go through Nashville, it's nothing.
Well,
but
Nashville is where it's kicked into high gear. Here's my real thing. It's a wrap for Nashville. When you see all the cranes show up, that's a wrap because the cranes aren't invading. The cranes are owned by a developer who is working for somebody who owns the land. You got to be on the land owning part. Those cranes aren't squatters setting up and building and hoping they can get permission later from the landowner. The landowner is the one who brought the cranes. So what I'm saying is you got to be in position before those cranes ever show up. By the time the cranes show up, it's already likely too late. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. When I saw those cranes in 2015, going on a decade ago, I was like, It's already. I worked in construction. I know the permitting process, the land requirement process, but I also know the financial goal requirements for which you would be doing this. When I count 12 cranes in a city like Nashville, which is not a major hub, or at least it wasn't at the time, it is now, I'm like, it's happening here, not on the West Coast, not in the Northeast. It's happening in the South now, not the Deep South, but it's happening in the South now. I recognize the game plan. I recognize the pathology. It can only go one way. So by the time you see the cranes, I'm telling y'all, it's already too late. You'll just be hanging on with your fingernails at that point. And here's the real issue. You said Nashville, but do you notice that me and Professor Fraser said something different? Now, yeah, I did mention Nashville, but notice we used a different phrase, Davidson County.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you live in Nashville, that's only one way of thinking about it. Well, that's only one way of thinking about it. If you're only thinking about Nashville proper, you're probably not seeing the big picture. Because anybody who's gotten on that spaghetti super freeways they got going through there recognizes that thing is jammed in the mornings and the afternoon. Traffic jammed. Not New York, not Philadelphia, Nashville.
Yeah, it's worse. It's almost as bad as LA traffic now going through there.
And that is my point is those people didn't show up because it's crime and this. Didn't they have a damn mass shooting at a damn Waffle House there?
Yeah.
And notice they're not talking like you.
Yeah.
Now white man goes and shoots up a Waffle House. Nobody was yelling about crime. Just saying. Find that to be interesting. The white kids can go shoot up the school every week. The white kids are dusting off their automatic rifles at the local elementary school. But I guess that doesn't count as crime. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, so I shouldn't have never said that because there's a lot of crime outside of a lot of these cities, like in West Virginia and places like that. It doesn't make the news, and so. Yeah, they only report on the big city crime, but there's outside of Ohio and Columbus, there's a lot of people on meth and stuff that the news don't show it on TV. So, yeah, I mean I shouldn't have said that in the chat, but Davidson County is big. But every time I go through I-40 east coming from LA. All I see is sky cranes all over the place, and I didn't see that like 10 years ago. And I'm thinking they're gonna push them out. It's probably most likely
they will
push a lot of people out of.
They will. These are not short-term plans. Remember, if I saw all those cranes in 2015, the cranes that I saw in 2015 were the result of plans since 2005, and the cranes that you see in 2024, that's the result of plans from 2010 and 2014. So what I'm saying is, and if what you're seeing now is still building, that means there's a bunch of other folks trying to get in. Because if the previous projects have been successful, that's what sets, because different investors and different developers have different thresholds or tolerances for risk. And the more successful a developed area is, the more investors it draws in, because for them, they're paying a higher price because they didn't get in early, but they're like, it's worth it because it's less of a risk now. I know I'm going to get my money. So it's okay that I lost the opportunity cost because now it's a more assured investment. So that's more worth it to me. So it'll cost me more to get in, but at least now I know it's going to work. So when you keep that in mind, just recognize, this train is already leaving and Nashville is just one. Memphis is a major transportation hub. And furthermore, it's geographically placed. You can't move Memphis's geography in America. It is uniquely geographically situated. It's the population median of America. That's not going anywhere for a century. So with that being the case, no, it has a unique geographical attribute that cannot be replicated. You damn right they want to move us out. Are you kidding me? It doesn't. Memphis's value doesn't require beachfront property, Silicon Valley infrastructure, higher education. It doesn't require any of that. It has a geographic significance that can't be replicated. You damn right they want us out. Thank you very much for giving us a call. You damn right they want us gone. Chicago is a transportation hub of the Midwest. You damn right they want us out. Oh, you got to go. We didn't know this was going to kick off like this. You got to leave. Here, bringing the gangs, bringing the drugs, bringing all the free guns. Ooh, look at it. It's terrible. That's not accidental. Let me get caller from country code 447. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good morning, Jason. Brother Jeff from London, UK.
Brother Jeff from London. What's on your mind, brother?
Brother Jeff. I will call to congrats to you on your latest milestone of your subscribe to your latest breach of white supremacy. We appreciate your service and your accomplishments. We appreciate it here in the UK. Be one from the UK. Yeah, man. What can I say? I mean, hopefully, I've listened to you for 9 years now, Jason. First broadcast I listened to you was back in March 2015 called "The How to Stop a Racist." That was broadcast by you by 9th of March 2015. This was 9 years ago, and you're still here. And we appreciate your indomitable spirit, your stamina, and your sagacity, and your foresight. We appreciate it, Jason.
Well, I'm gonna keep repping for Brixton. That's like home away from home. When I think about it, you can just feel when the heart is the same. I'm just telling you, I don't give a damn what nobody says. I'm gonna keep repping for Brixton. You're not gonna talk down about it. You ain't gonna Chicago it or nothing. If next time I have an opportunity or whatnot, because I can't telegraph my movements. But I'm just letting y'all know is that if you want to know what kind of nigga I am, if I was in the UK, that's gonna be me right there, right there.
Yeah. Jason, bro, we appreciate it, Jason. But Brixton, that's just also, the Brixton I grew up in is in gentrified also. I mean, Brixton's changed now for the worse, but we're still there. We're still holding up by our fingertips, but yeah, we're still there, Jason. Fighting the good fight.
Very glad to hear that. Well, Brother Jeff, I want to thank you for your time of, interacting with us. Is very, very important because we don't have other platforms of any significance that do this kind of thing. It's not shucking and jiving to deal with these things in a real complex, high level way here. So when things like that do jump off, when things like that do happen, there's a counterbalance to that. Y'all aren't just over there being misunderstood. When y'all stood up and raised up for yourselves, we were over here letting everybody know what the deal was and what was really happening. And that changed the narrative of it. The white corporate media wasn't able to grab the narrative and say, oh, it's a bunch of rowdy niggas acting crazy over there. We put it in its proper context and didn't compromise on it. And that's really what changed the narrative and the dynamic of that. Just like with George Floyd, everybody getting together on that. That's what changed the dynamic about that. Not the corporate media. They didn't set a damn thing. We did that ourselves. So it's people like you and making that bridge around the world or communicating and whatnot, that makes all the difference in the world. So I just wanted to thank you for your contribution to that as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jason. Be one from London, be one from Nigeria, and stay firm. But be one, Jason. Thank you.
Black first, brother. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. From here around the world, just understand what that is. So yeah, y'all, if I ever woke up one day and I was British, I better be waking up in Brixton. Better be. Let me get caller from area code 571. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Did you tell that little girl who you voted for in the last election and why? Yeah, you didn't, because you're a fucking liar and you're a piece of shit.
Okay, well, I voted for your probation officer.
Bastard.
I voted for your probation officer. So
Who'd you vote?
I voted for your probation officer and for your mental health social worker. I voted for both of them. Unfortunately, they lost. Which is very unfortunate, so. But hopefully they'll get another chance. By the way, I do have a photograph of you. I heard that recently you were in Las Vegas. I did hear that recently you were in Las Vegas. So on your screen right now, I do have an exclusive photograph of you. So just in case anybody was wondering, I do have a photograph of you recently in Las Vegas. So yes, we understand you have a hearing coming up. So hopefully this hearing goes better than the last one did. We're not optimistic, but hopefully the next hearing will go better than the last one. So I can't say we're rooting for you. I can't say we're rooting for you. I can't say that. So hopefully you will get the help that you need. Hopefully you will get that. Along with a bath. Call from area code 929. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Jason. This is Daryl from Chicago.
Daryl from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Jason, we just want to send a happy new year to you from our family here, and thank you for all what you've done. Numerous amount of times, I got my nephews to finally listen to you, and they did listen, especially during your tech event that you had on the broadcast. That was big. That was huge because they both were in that field, and both of them were making six-figure salaries, and one's 28 and one of them was 32. I just want to thank you for that. Another thing too, and we were down in Jacksonville, Florida, visiting my mom, me and my wife, and we were down there where they had the shooting down there. And you gave us a shout out and sent your blessings to us. We appreciate that as well. We appreciate the black media and what they're doing at the level that they're doing. You're giving competent, on point, precise situations, insight that nobody else is giving us. You're getting people calling you from all over the world, and rightfully so. And wherever you need me to do, Jason, I'm there. I ain't got a problem with that. My steering wheel turns on that car and the truck, so we'll be there. Bottom line is we're supporting, we're being there. We got to do this all together and take it to the next level for the new year, not just for the new year, but keep on. We're making a difference. I heard you 9 years ago, and I haven't stopped listening since. I just want to thank you for it. You made a difference for my nephews, my nieces, all of them. I told them, you want some real insight, you understand journalism, you want to get, listen to this gentleman. He going to let it know. You, Professor Truth, Tariq, you all have, and there's a lot more others that have stepped up on the media level as well, and telling the truth, telling it like it's supposed to be told, uncompromising, and taking it to a whole new level. And yeah, we're going to get reparations. Yeah, we're going to get everything. I preach black empowerment every day of my life. I'm going to continue on until the day I'm not here. This is going to be generational. Jason, we want to thank you for that. We appreciate it. God bless.
Well, thank you very much as well here. And certainly, the way to pay it forward is to be the best you can be and replicate what you've seen here. That's the only real purpose I've ever had, is to make a clear, reliable, factual, practical example and then just replicate what you've seen here. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. But I'm telling you, the Princess Zamunda is over there. He's arguing with somebody about, wiring some money or something. I don't know. I guess, like, what do they use in Zimbabwe? MoneyGram or whatever? It's like, okay, I hope y'all don't hear him, but I don't want to get too loud over there and things. It's just the microwave has been going and he's yelling at somebody about a damn wire transfer. So I'm like, okay, is you scamming, or is this the fifth wife, or what is going on? So I don't know what the Princess Zamunda is doing tonight, but I'm like, yeah, y'all worrying about Memphis? Y'all are worrying about Memphis. I got this going on over here, but you worrying about Memphis. Okay. Caller from area code 404, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Will. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Will from Atlanta, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm a new subscriber to your channel, like within the past couple of weeks. But what I appreciate about, your channel, your broadcast and whatnot, is that it is a very necessary, insightful counter narrative to the, corporate controlled, whitewashed media and their subversive tactics and stuff like that. And it's interesting because, I'm 39 or whatever. When I talk like with my mother and stuff like that, even people of that older generation that just kind of watch like, local action news and that kind of stuff, and how, as far as like media literacy goes, there is this disproportionate sort of coverage over of like quote unquote, black issues, black crimes and stuff like that. But I'm like, going to college and like studying like media literacy and things like that. It's like, there's an agenda setting sort of theory, and it's like there, as a practice like white supremacy and stuff, it's such an insidious and subversive sort of dynamic that goes on, and it's just like it's like people. I mean, and it affects everybody. Like, of course, white people, black people internalize that and do that, and it's like you believe the fraudulent worst thing about yourself, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to necessarily take that to heart. And it's like there's always a counterpoint and a counter narrative that will get shouted out because of things like money and exposure and all that kind of other stuff. That's why I really appreciate, platforms like yours, and there are other ones that I follow, like this kind of new black media. I appreciate that because it's very needed, it's very affirming, it's very positive, it's very important. And it's like it gives you, again, it's a counterweight and helps to give a more balanced and objective overall understanding of like Black Americans and what our real issues are and things like that. I just really appreciate it. And even like your insights into Atlanta. I am a homeowner. I've been here like, owning my home for about 10 years, give or take a year. And yeah, this wave of like gentrification and stuff like that, it is, in my particular area, is a predominantly black area. Yeah, there's this very slow sort of procession of like white people trickling into the area, and there's always
it hasn't been a slow procession.
Like, do you want to sell your house? Do you want to sell your house?
They're just circling around right now. So anybody they can pick off, they're watching y'all to see what it is. That buckhead thing is not a
vultures.
That's not a that buckhead thing is not an idle threat, not at all. Thank you very much for giving us a call here, folks. I mean, I got a fever. At first, I'm not gonna lie to you all. At first, I was sitting here thinking, I know I showered and everything, and I know my deodorant is on point, but I'm like, I don't know. Am I sweating? Because I'm like, I smell a little funny. And I'm like, no, I ain't never smelled like this. And I'm like, all that damn microwave buzzing I heard. Now I'm thinking, hey, nigga, are you over there cooking like goat meat or squirrel meat? What are you doing over there? I'm not feeling well. It's like, what the hell kind of resort they got me at? What are we doing, man? What are we doing here? Who are y'all letting in these places? I'm just trying to figure out, like, was it a refugee deal? Is that what they're doing now? They got like a migrant discount? Is this good? Am I going to have to start asking that before I go anywhere? Hey, by the way, do you have a migrant discount? Are you doing that kind of program? I'm like, hey, I got a lot going on right now. And it's just, I was just sitting here thinking, is that me humming like that? Is that me smelling like that? I'm just like, I know I've been unwell and things, but I'm like, okay, is this a new progression? Am I smelling that way? And then I'm like, that's kind of wafting in from somewhere else. I'm like, okay, it's all right. So, folks, I don't even know what to do right now. It's just, they got me trapped. Don't y'all see I'm going through some things over here? Caller from area code 762. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, I'm Enoch, and I'm calling from Augusta, Georgia. And I just called to definitely wish you and your program a happy new year and a great success, and continue to learn and progress.
Well, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, brother. Please do tune in here again. I mean, does anybody have the Kenyan recipe for fried hippo? Is that what I'm? Is there? Do they have like the Ethiopian recipe for baked zebra? Perhaps that's what perhaps I'm just not cultured enough. It's just maybe I'm just not cultured enough. Maybe I'm just stuck on beef too much. I'm from Southern United States, so I was like, okay, is this beef, pork, or seafood? And lately, the seafood is what's got me tied up in knots. So, If anybody wants to know, I went to a seafood place that's actually, if I said the name, you'd recognize it, which is why I don't want to say anything, but figured that would be dependable and stuff. But I'm pretty sure that's where the mess jumped off at. I'm in a place I'm not usually at like that, and it's like, okay, we went experimenting. It'd be the last damn time I ever try that. But yeah, man, between that and now, they got the damn fried yak in here. Oh man, y'all, the cross-cultural thing. I can't hang with the cross-cultural thing. It's just, I'm not feeling it right now. It ain't working for me. It ain't working for me. Caller Miracle 951, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is the Church of Black Power out in Houston, Texas.
Okay, Church of Black Power in Houston. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just want to give you a shout out for the 150K. Another thing, just real quick, I just so happened to be at that runoff election there that they did at TSU, and where Sheila Jackson Lee lost. And a lot of these people are doing the same thing, regurgitating and trying their hardest not to mention Black folks when it comes to anything, right? I was actually supposed to ask a question there, and they set me next to the person who actually wrote all the questions for all the students there. So when we talk about people like Roland Martin and all that other stuff, we have regular people who are doing the same thing at these colleges, making it seem like this is the topics that they bring up is the topics that the Black students want to know about, which was the environment, crime, and some other nonsense. It got to the point where I had to literally stand up and ask, who's going to fund Black Houstonians? And they ended up cutting the stream off. ABC did the whole thing there, did the whole stream, cut it off. I did get to ask Sheila Jackson Lee that question after. And when I say I recorded it to make sure I had everything right, she literally took it back to everybody else and every community when I asked her the specific question, how can we, or how would you bring in funds for Black Houstonians? Because she sat up there on the stage and talked about all the money that she brought into Houston.
Well, let her tell the tale. She saved the whole city or whatever. But when you actually start asking about specifics for us, that's when it gets real quiet. And what they're finding out now is that if you can't talk, our agenda as Black folk now is specific. This isn't a talking point that's just being passed around the internet. When you go in front of Black folk now, they want to hear specifics. And if you aren't saying specifics, you're pretty much just an empty suit talking. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Y'all, this nigga got my eyes watering up. And what the hell kind of seasoning? I don't know if it's a seasoning. I don't know what's going on, folks. They got me cross-eyed up in here. They really do right now. I'm like, what? Is he cooking like flaming chitlins? You know, it's like the fire going. Is he barbecuing chitlins? I mean, you can hear him. I'm just like, okay, he is having a grand old time. I'm just like, okay, they're making. All right, just folks, I'm going through things over here right now. I literally don't know what's happening here. What the hell kind of culinary class is this nigga in? Who gave him an open flame? Don't you see I'm sick? I can't get arrested all. People, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Caller from area code 310. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay, this Negro is fighting with his phone. He's in a death match with his phone. I hope he wins. Caller from area code 571. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Who did you vote for in the last election and why?
Okay.
You said you voted. You specifically came on and said, I voted. Okay. So what Black agenda?
Well, let me go ahead and take your number down so we can go ahead and add him to the do not disturb list here. What I need you to do is get back on your meds. Or get off your mom, whichever one you can do first. Caller from area code 818, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
That's me, 818, Cameron Fairchild, Los Angeles. How are you tonight, TBA?
What's on your mind?
Not doing well, I guess. So not doing well. So I just wanted to call in and say we are praying for you. We appreciate you, and we do hope you feel better. I know that ginger tea always works for me.
Okay, well, if I can find some, I can see if I can get a hold of that. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. And like I say here, folks, I'm feeling better, although I'm a lot better than I was 2 days ago, and I'm better than I was last night. But it's just been some trials and tribulations, and very clearly being next to African Martha Stewart has complicated matters further here. So, yeah, but just in case you thought my burdens weren't enough, just in case you all thought I wasn't doing enough out here, handling enough out here, by the way, here's another one. Because, of course, it can never be enough, obviously. So, yeah, there's that. There's that. So, it is not an easy life for me. It is not. But as I say here, folks, I want to thank all of you for this incredible trip that we've taken here. We have changed lives. We've changed the world. It is a far different place than it was when we started this 15 years ago. We are in a far different place. The conversations that back then that I promised you that if we could get 10% of the population to go along with what we're talking about, that it would eventually become the mainstream, we're a whole lot further along now than we were then. So I just want to tell you all here, thank you very much for your support. Thank you all for that here. Big shout out here to everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo as well there. We don't have Cash App anymore, but it doesn't matter. Y'all are still been represented anywhere. My girl Shauna, April, thank you very much for your support. Even the Grinch contributed here. So you know you're doing good if the Grinch is contributing. So that's appreciated here as always. My man Keith has been around for years and years, and as always, brother, your support is appreciated. Mr. Dixon, Terrence, Isaiah, and everyone else, and each and every one of you, thank you very much for your support as well. This is just the first 15, the first 150,000. We are on to the next. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button, click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we are here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Ethnic Cleansing American Style, our documentary Race War, all available on DVD and streaming at blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for your support all this time and for being a part of what makes this happen. There is no me without you, period, point blank, in the discussion. We are all a package deal, and that's as simple as it is. I want to thank all of you for joining us for tonight's program. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. I appreciate each and every one of you. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.